meeting for the interviewing for regents for the state of New York. Section 202 of the Education Law provides for the election by the legislature of members of the Board of Regents. There are 17 regents in total, 13 elected by judicial district, and 4 elected at large. Today we are interviewing for judicial districts 4, 10, and for the at-large vacancies. The law further provides that the regent must be elected by concurrent resolution of the legislature or by joint session of the legislature in the first weeks of March. The Board of Regents oversees the entire education enterprise of the state of New York. The board's most prominent role is setting learning standards for elementary and secondary education. The Board of Regents also regulates 56 licensed professionals and registers academic programs at all colleges and universities, including SUNY and CUNY. Also within the purview of the Board of Regents are public libraries, museums, historical societies, the state library, the state archives, public broadcasting, vocational rehabilitation, and the regulation of proprietary vocational schools. The Board of Regents derives its authority from the New York State Constitution and education law, specifically Section 207 of the Education Law, that grants the power to the board to exercise legislative functions concerning education policies and to establish rules for implementing those policies. Okay, I'm Assemblyman Mike Benedetto, Chairman of the Assembly Education Committee. And with me are other legislators who have concerns about education in the state of New York. I would ask right now Senator Mayer, who's chairman of the Senate Education Committee, if she has a couple words that she wants to say as we begin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Glad to be here another day. This is our third day of hearing from applicants for the Board of Regents. It's an incredibly important and impactful role that we in the legislature depend on and work cooperatively with, but there's probably no more pressing moment than now in the world of public education and in the world of education regulation than what the state of New York does to protect the children that we are responsible for and the adults that we are responsible for. So thank you to all those who have put their names forward and have come here in person to, engage in this conversation with us. And I look forward to a productive day. And my colleague, Chairman Benedetto, didn't say, but he'll tell you we asked for a brief opening statement, and then we'll ask some questions. So with that, I yield back to you.
Thank you very much. To my left is chairperson of the Higher Education Committee on the State Assembly, Assemblywoman Alicia Hyman. Do you have a couple words you want to say?
I have a couple words. Good morning on this third and final day of a rigorous Regents interview schedule. I think all of the candidates understand the magnitude of this position, although volunteer to set policy for the entire state of New York. So it's not lost on us on how diligent we must be in the selection process. And I just want to thank the chair for doing an excellent job of keeping us to task these last 3 days. And I look forward to the conclusion of all of the interviews today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hyman. We also have Assemblyman Charles Levine from Long Island. Assemblyman, do you have anything you want to say as we begin?
Thank you, Chair. Good morning.
Thank you, thank you. And let that be the keynote for the entire rest of the presentations today. Your brevity is welcome. Ranka Smith, Assemblyman Mrs. Smith, Doug Smith. And thank you, Ranka Smith. And we also have Assemblyman Steve Otis with us today. Thank you, Mr. Otis. Okay. Thank you very much, for being here today, Mr. Chris. You've been here before. You kind of know the procedure. Okay, we're here really just to have a conversation back and forth. We ask you to present to us something that you make us believe that you belong on the board, and after which we'll ask you a few questions. And we have put an arbitrary time of 3 minutes, and try to adhere to that. And the floor is yours, sir.
Well, it's tough to say at the beginning of an interview that I will not be able to match your colleagues' conciseness. But good morning. My name is Brian Christ, and I'm applying to be one of the at-large members of the Board of Regents for the 2 existing vacancies that are here. And I come to this today knowing the incredible role that the Regents play in our everyday lives, whether we are the parents of small children like myself, or people who are interacting with our Regents' regulated titles and professions, which I have a lot of interaction with in my professional work, but also being on 2 Regents boards. But also just the cultural sense of who we are as New Yorkers is at its essence what the Regents are dealing with every day, thinking about how we're going to educate our children, how are we going to educate our young adults, how are we going to regulate all of the professions that allow our society to function. And also bearing in mind the incredible people that have come before this, which I know you've heard in particular from Chancellor Young yesterday. And it's something that I'm aware of in thinking about this, with people ranging from some of our founders of this nation through some of the great leaders of this state through its history have taken time away from their lives to be in this role. So it's incredibly flattering to be considered for it and humbling. But for me, I look at it as I touched on a bit before, the parent of public school children now, as someone who works with the professions every single day, someone who helps regulate the professions every single day. And I'm privileged to have been appointed actually by the Board of Regents, or reappointed 4 times now over the past 9 years, to serve as a public member representing our entire state, ranging from my family and our neighbors on the east side of Manhattan, to my in-laws in Chautauqua County and Jamestown, my parents and their neighbors in Sullivan County, our friends in Hamilton County, and throughout the state. So I'm aware of my work now, that my obligation is to represent all New Yorkers, even those that I will never meet, even those that I'll never see. And it's something I continue to do in this. And I look forward to your questions.
Thank you very much for those nice, concise statements. Listen, right now, the state has been evaluating the standards for graduation. We used to rely on the Regents' diploma. Now they seem to be drifting away from that. Do you have any views on this particular issue?
Several. I come to it as somebody who took Regents exams actually when I was in middle school, because my program had us taking Regents exams early. And then I went to a high school that did not require them. So I've lived in both worlds in that sense. My own children are in grade school, so I have a little bit of time before I'm doing that with them. But I still have a very interested spectator's perspective on it, because it's what they're going to be doing. I think for us as New Yorkers, this is a results-oriented game for us. In the sense that no one cared here how I got here today. It was just the expectation that I arrive in the Capitol at a time certain. Whether I took the train or I drove or I flew, didn't matter. What we want for our children is that we will have the result of an educational development, that they'll be a cultured New Yorker at the end of this. And how we measure that may have to vary child by child. But for us, it's the results that are important.
Thank you. Senator, might you have some questions?
I do have some questions. First place, I remember from last year, or last time we met, that you serve as a public member and chair currently of the New York State Board for Certified Shorthand Reporting. Have they come out with modified regulatory proposals during the time that you've been there?
Over my time on the board, yes, we have modified our certification structure for the CSR board. I'll specify, CSR is a little bit different in that it is a title protection. There are people that can essentially practice the profession or the trade of shorthand reporting, but not necessarily as state certified shorthand
Right.
reporters. So as an example, most of our court staff that are stenographers are not CSR members. So we did change while I was on the board, using a national exam, so we were not crafting our own state-based exam, which was an enormous burden for the education department and also the board members themselves, because given the size of the profession, we were staffing that ourselves.
So was that recommendation adopted by the Board of Regents? It was.
It was.
Yes. So the second thing is, given what is happening in Washington, the newest executive order by the president dealing with what happens in a classroom, as well as potential serious changes to the U.S. Department of Education, are you following and giving thought to sort of how New York should respond if you were on the Board of Regents in terms of educational policy, financial supplements to what money we may lose? Is this something that you've given thought to how the Board of Regents should respond?
I have, and it's something that I also live in my professional work as a history professor as well, which I do on a part-time basis at Montclair State University in New Jersey. So I also have the benefit of seeing what my also large public research university, albeit in a sister state, is doing and thinking about there. I'm thinking about it myself in the context of how questioning my own teaching would be raised, because I teach American history, and also how we would respond to that as a campus community in that sense, or a larger community as a state. So it's something I'm actively looking and thinking about with concern now.
Lastly, do you have a position on the governor's proposed cell phone ban, which is a bell-to-bell, complete restriction on the use of cell phones during the school day for all children?
I have questions about how effectively that can be enforced, and that's one of the things I think about with my professional background that you've seen, whether it's going to the Leadership Institute for New York City government to learn how to run agencies, or being a fellow of the Academy for Public Administration now. Having rules that work is important to me, and rules that can be followed and enforced. I suspect a true bell-to-bell will be hard, but in the larger sense, I think restrictions on cell phone use in classrooms, yes. I mean, they are distracting for my college students. They're worse for high school and younger. But the mechanism of trying to enforce a pure bell-by-bell restriction, I think, would be a little tricky.
Thank you. Thank you for coming again. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Senator.
Mr. Smith.
Thank you, and thank you for joining us. So you mentioned you have young children. I have a daughter who's in first grade. In my assembly district out on Long Island, about 75% of parents are still opting their students out of the 3 through 8 mandated testing. My daughter's in first grade. If she were in third grade, if nothing really substantially changes, she probably won't be taking the test. And that is not because I don't think she can be successful, and the parents I represent feel similarly. They just don't believe that it's a good use of time and things. What are your thoughts on how we can effectively measure whether or not students are actually being served well in our public school system?
I have a first grader as well and a fourth grader, so I'm living both sides of that dichotomy. I have one taking the test and one not yet. I understand parents' concerns about the testing. It does present additional difficulties because we are trying to measure where we are as a large state. You know, my children's school on 63rd Street is delightful. I hope your daughter's school is equally good, as they should be for all of us as New Yorkers. But it is difficult when we're trying to when we want an apples-to-apples comparison, but we don't have the same criteria everywhere. Testing may be an imperfect way of doing that, but I don't necessarily know that we've come up with the best, a better apples-to-apples method yet. So yet, it is the imperfect nature of sometimes all of our work.
would you agree that there are challenges, for example, of how we're teaching literacy in the schools, yet, I find myself at a loss because, we'll see scores that come out saying how effective a school may or may not be, and yet, that's not necessarily commensurate with what the results we're seeing. And it's not necessarily driving instruction. Do you have thoughts about that?
Sure. If whatever testing or verification method we're using, whether it is an educational model or really anything else in government, if we're not seeing a connection between kind of the results and our testing methods, there's a disconnect. How we solve that is obviously the trickier issue, but the fact that there is a disconnect here is very important. And I think the resolution to that question may vary district to district, region to region, and that's part of what we have to dig through more. Because it's the benefit of being a massive state where we have so many disparities and differences, which are great most of the time because they make us who we are, but at the same time present differences.
Thank you, sir. Just one last question, if you would. Funding in the state of New York is largely controlled by a funding formula that has been in place for the last 20 years and so on, and outdated, and we're working on a new one now. Do you have any views on that? Any thoughts that you want to share with us?
It's something that I get to hear. I have obviously my own immediate views as the parent of New York City public school children, but I also get to hear from, again, my parents and in-laws in very different regions of the state. So I get to hear their viewpoints as well, and I think it will inform me as a regent. What we want at the end of the day is all of our children across the state to benefit from being a New Yorker, from what we have. We are a fortunate state writ large, but at the same time, region by region, I don't have to tell anyone on this side of the room that there are parts of this state that are suffering. And so I think in that moment, it behooves us collectively as a state to help those of us that have had more difficulty. And that's something that certainly I would hope that those funding issues and those funding allocations address.
Mr. Chris, we thank you very much for coming here again. But first, I put it down, but you didn't ask me. Before you go, we will not let you go before a question from Ms. Hyman.
Oh, please.
It's the last day, so good morning again. You have several volunteer positions now, and as you know, the responsibilities, and it'll be a volunteer almost position being on the Board of Regents. But you've been able to see firsthand how they operate, the magnitude of the experience. Should you become a regent, what committees would you want to serve on based on your background? And what is the one thing you think, if you had to pick one thing for the regents to focus on, what would that be?
I think in terms of my own skills, obviously I will go where I am needed. I will say it first. But given my work on the professional boards already, I suspect I would be a very good fit in professional practice. But also my own work as having taught undergrad, grad, and law school, and being the parent of small children now, I would be comfortable serving on the committees addressing either elementary education or higher.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We want to thank you for showing up here, Mr. Chris. We appreciate your interest. You came here last year. I hope things work out better for you, but we acknowledge your interest, and I thank you for your time, and we'll be in touch within the next couple of weeks.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Have a
Good luck
good
with the
day,
rest of
sir.
your work.
Travel safe.
Thank you.
Our next candidate is a Mr. John Willis, applying for the at-large position.
like it did on the video.
Mr. Willis, good morning. I'm Assemblyman Mike Benedetto. I'm Chairman of the Education Committee of the New York State Assembly, and I'm up here with various other elected officials, assembly people, senators, and so on, all having an interest in education and the well-being of the students of the state of New York, and who we put on the Board of Regents. And we thank you for showing up here today and willing to, talk to us. What the procedure will be, we're going to give you a time to say a thing about yourself, telling us why you want to be on the Board of Regents and maybe some views on what the Regents should be doing and how you can help them. And then we'll ask you a few questions on that. We're asking that you try to stay true to the 3-minute limit that we have here before you. And just want you to relax and casually answer the questions to us, okay?
Okay.
So make sure that your mic is on,
It's green.
then go. Floor is yours, sir.
I'm an Albany native, born and raised in the suburb of Colony. My primary education encompassed both public and parochial schools. I was in the first class to complete junior high at Leschick Middle School. I'm a graduate of the Notre Dame Bishop Gibbons School in Schenectady. While there, I took numerous Regents exam. My most memorable one was receiving a 99 on the Latin Regents. I'm sure there's no more Latin Regents. I spent my college years at Iona University in New Rochelle, New York, where I earned a BS in chemistry, later attending SUNY Oswego, where I earned a master's degree. I completed my doctoral studies in organic chemistry at the University of Connecticut and a postdoc at the University of Minnesota. I have also completed several advanced management programs at Stanford University. Much of my work experience was in the Boston area, where I spent 40 years in the medical device industry developing cutting-edge technology for the measurement of blood chemistries. While there, I served on the advisory board of the 128 Entrepreneur Center, which encouraged entrepreneurs to start companies in the Boston area. Programs were available for how to raise venture funding, manage a company, and hire scientists and engineers. Over the years, I employed summer interns from local colleges and universities. I enjoyed mentoring them and helping them thrive in a technology business environment. I have been a member of the New York Academy of Sciences for over 35 years. In 2024, the Academy stated their primary objective is to bridge the opportunity gap that prevents students from entering the STEM workforce. If chosen for the board, I would like to focus on narrowing the gap between a STEM degree and finding a job. I would also like to add an increasing STEM aid in the increasing STEM education, especially in underserved populations and minorities. I have a lot of experience raising grant funds. I'm an NIH grantee, having raised significant funds for my research. Additionally, I have served as an NIH grant reviewer. I would also like to help schools raise grants funds. I'm a longtime member of the American Chemical Society. The ACS has offered several STEM programs through Project SEED, which provides high school students with hands-on research experience in a lab environment, along with scholarship opportunities for underrepresented minority students pursuing chemistry-related degrees through the ACS Scholars Program, both aimed at fostering diversity in the chemical sciences. Jobs in STEM are growing faster than other occupations. However, there is not enough funding for hiring STEM teachers as well as STEM curriculums. The average starting salary for a STEM teacher in New York is about $49,000, while the average starting STEM salary in industry is $86,000. In order to attract more teachers, efforts need to be made to improve teachers' salaries. There needs to be more freedom of flexibility to try new ideas and for training and certifying STEM teachers. Thank you for your attention and consideration for such an important position. I kept it short.
You certainly did, and we appreciate that. Let me just start off by asking you your views on what the governor is proposing as far as cell phone bans. And
Well,
you have any views on that?
yes, I had a little experience substitute teaching. The phones were out all the time. Half the kids wanted to learn, the other half didn't give a damn. And unfortunately, I just couldn't handle that kind of an environment. I'm used to teaching where people are listening and want to learn, and I'm very much against allowing cell phones in schools.
Okay. But yet there will be distractions in the classroom setting, no matter what happens.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Do you say cell phones should be completely banned from
No,
the schools?
I think if they usually have backpacks. There's got to be some place they can hang their backpack, leave the phone in the backpack, but if they need to get in touch with their family or their parents call, they can always get a hold of the school people and let their daughter or son know what's
you're
going on.
open
Yeah.
for some variations
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
on that.
No, it's important. There's some kids that probably really need those phones.
Okay, probably so. Ms. Heineman, I don't want to overlook you. Do you have a question here?
I do. Thank you very much, Dr. Willis. So particularly what's going on with the federal government, the pause on the funding for research through NIH, the indirect costs. I'm sure you must have heard about that.
Yes, I know. That's
And
very
so-
disturbing.
Right, but not obviously the politics of it, but what repercussions could happen to New York State and as a region, in order for us to be not reactive but proactive in situations when we know funding is a huge issue for New York State. What kind of remedies do you think we should be doing to be proactive on whatever comes down from the federal government?
Well, I believe that New York State it might be a good idea to have a funding source that can support new companies. And what my area of interest is medical devices. And it's very difficult to get something started. I know what it was like. Luckily, I was in Boston, so over a period of 3 or 4 years, you meet the right number of people. Some people get interested, you arrange some angel funding, and then, later on, you can raise some venture capital. But I don't see that here in New York, and not a lot of it anyway. I mean, Albany, I've tried to raise some money here, and it was not that easy. I was able to get grant funding, but that only goes so far. So I think there needs to be some way of helping new companies get started and off the ground, and by offering some kind of a grant from New York.
Thank you.
Senator Mayer?
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Willis. I'm interested in your focus on increasing STEM education in K through 12 schools and encouraging it, which you spoke about. Have you reviewed the state's framework, which sort of guides curriculum in science?
I've seen it, yes.
Is it, from your perspective, if you were on the Board of Regents, do you think it's inadequate to focus sufficiently on STEM issues, particularly engineering and math?
Well, I think I'd have to take a deeper dive, but I think it's very important that there is an initiative, and I would be, I know a lot about science and chemistry and teaching students and mentoring students, which I did a lot of. Obviously, New York's way ahead of other states in their funding of STEM education, but I think it's a good thing, and
Yeah.
it needs more funding, obviously.
And you mentioned about increasing salaries for teachers in the science world, which I'm sure we all would be supportive of. The Regents has a limited role in setting salaries for teachers.
Yeah.
As you know, that's, really depends on how much money we fight to give every school. So given
know
that
it's limited, yes.
limitation, how would you be an advocate on this increasing STEM, which I think everyone supports?
Well, I think there's a lot of companies out there that hire scientists, engineers. I think the time has got to come where more companies get involved in supporting students
Aye.
while they're in college. That way they have a handle on them when they get out. And I think that funding is always difficult on the state level.
Right.
But I think industry has to get involved more. I don't know how it's going to work, but there's always seems to be a division between, the state and employers. But I think it's something that has to happen.
And lastly, I know you talked about your experience as a substitute teacher. That was in a K through 12 school, I take it?
Yes,
Have you ever,
it was a nightmare.
thanks for the frank analysis, appreciate that. But other than that, do you have occasion to go to K through 12 schools in your work, or is it mostly focused on college?
Mostly college.
Yes, okay.
So my experience has been with college students. So though I did have some high school kids when I worked in the Boston area. Some of them were incredibly bright, and, which isn't a barrier to. I wouldn't turn away a good high school student,
Right.
for sure.
Thank you so much, thank you very much.
Rankin Smith.
Thank you. Thank you, sir, for joining us. Now, I'm looking at your resume and listening to what you're speaking about, and I think we're fortunate that our higher education institutions, colleges, universities, have a lot of highly qualified people like yourself in their math, science departments, their computer science and all these things. But we are, I think, lacking people like yourself at the secondary level.
Right.
Do you have any thoughts if someone is successful in their field and wants to make this their Act Two? Do you have any thoughts on how we can make that easier or?
Oh, I think there has to be a little bit of training involved. If you're never been in a high school class, you need to be able to understand what's going on there, and also the curriculum. I think you have to make it interesting, exciting. You got to do some whiz-bang stuff to get them involved. I used to do some experiments where in front of the class, it was a clear liquid in a jar, and I would shake it, and all of a sudden it would change from one color to another color, and then back to clear again. Those kind of things get kids so excited.
Do you have any thoughts on, and this came up during the screenings, I think 2 days ago, when we're licensing science teachers at the secondary level, they're licensed for their content area, so they might be certified in physics or chemistry or
Right.
biology or earth science, but they can teach the general science in 7th or 8th grade, but they can only teach their subject area. Do you have any thoughts on licensing with regards to that, where we can expand? Because I agree with you, it seems to be a shortage.
Only licensing in the sense that, is it a test to prove they have what it takes?
Yeah,
to-
like content, right
Yeah.
now they have a content specialty
Exactly.
test.
Chemistry is a really broad area, but, I've mentored some students from universities, and I find that some of them aren't up to snuff, but, I'm not sure what they're going to do when they get out, but if they go into teaching, they need to have maybe some science courses or some way of
So I like what you're saying, so the people that have the teaching skills get them more content, and the folks that are maybe in their second act that have
Right.
the content get them the teaching skills.
exactly, yeah.
Thank you.
We
Okay,
thank you.
all right.
Coming here.
Thanks
Don't
a lot.
leave.
Oh,
I
okay.
haven't finished complimenting you. Okay, we thank you very much for your time, for coming here, for your interest in the education of the state of New York. Win or lose on this, I hope you keep your fingers in the pie and keep on your interest in education in the state of New York. But we'll be in touch with you in the
Okay.
next couple of weeks.
All right, thanks so much.
So
I
Willis,
appreciate
thank you
it.
for coming in today.
Bye-bye.
Moving right along.
So much for that, right, me too.
I'm sorry?
So we're doing pretty good now.
This is, yeah. They haven't been infected yet. They don't have the disease. Okay. Mr. Richard Pino. I'm sorry, sir. Thank you for being with us here today. I'm Assemblyman Mike Benedetto. I'm chairman of the Education Committee of the New York State Assembly, and with me are fellows elected officials, both from the Assembly and from the Senate. and we have an interest in education, all of us do, about the children in the state of New York and making that the best possible education possible. And the Board of Regents is in charge of that. We're here to listen to you. Please take some time to tell us about yourself and your vision for the board and what you think you can do on the board. And after which, we'll take a little time and ask you a few questions of interest to us. Okay, so sit back and relax. We want you to do that. And we've given you 3 minutes. Try to keep it within that, and then we'll be on. So go right ahead, sir.
Thank you. Good morning, all. My name is Richard Pino, and I'm humbled to be invited to have the opportunity to meet with the chairs of the Assembly and Senate Education and other stakeholders in the education community. I grew up in the New York City public school system, specifically in Brooklyn, and I currently reside in Manhattan. I am an operating chief financial officer who has served as a trusted advisor across all departments, senior management, and to the board of directors. As a well-rounded chief financial officer with leadership skills, I have built and developed cross-functional teams, cultivated effective partnerships with all stakeholders. My senior management experience expands across many industry sectors: pharmaceutical, consumer packaged goods, real estate, technology, telecom, media, investment banking, and nonprofit. For the past 12 years, I've been serving as the chief financial officer and associate broker for a real estate brokerage firm with offices in New York, Hong Kong, Singapore, and Seoul. In my prior position, I was the chief financial officer for an OTC and RX pharmaceutical company selling in the US and Canada with patents issued or pending in 26 countries. I currently serve on the nonprofit board of Cooperation Ireland as the treasurer and chairman of the Finance and Audit Committee. My past nonprofit board service includes St. Christopher's Inc. as vice president and chairman of the audit committee, the Brooklyn Philharmonic as trustee and member of the finance committee, Museum of Biblical Art as trustee and chairperson of the finance committee, and American Foundation for the University of West Indies as a trustee. The above nonprofit organizations that I have referenced, each and every one has a draw for me for their educational programs. I currently volunteer as a mentor for the Urban Land Institute. I share my real estate knowledge with a specific young real estate professional that I have been matched with. In the past, I have volunteered my time at the High School of Economics and Finance in the classroom. I was invited to the University of Technology of Jamaica to act as an observer for a graduating MBA class, documented and submitted to the chair of the program and the president of the university my observation of 5 separate team presenters. And many years ago, I served as a substitute teacher at Lafayette High School. If I am accepted to join the Board of Regents, in addition to the roundtable meetings, I would have interest in serving on the Audit and Budget Committee and the Professional Practice Committee. In closing, as a group, we need to help to develop and continue to invest in human capital. As we continue to mold great minds, graduates will be productive members of society, enhancing the development of our future leaders. Thank you.
You see me smiling up here, and your timing was just perfect.
Oh, thank you.
Okay,
I
rarely
practice.
seen, and much appreciated.
Thank
though.
you.
So you have an interest in the finances. We have an equal interest. We have a foundation aid formula that has been in place, which controls the funding for schools in the state of New York. It's some 20 years old and maybe outdated. We have done away with it, and we're trying to find a new formula. Well, you have any views on that, how to maybe make it a little better?
Well, also a recipient of financial aid from undergrad and grad, for what I had to go through of begging and pleading every time at the bursar's office at my college and at the university, it put a little burden on the student at that point, because you're actually there trying to get an education and you need the financial assistance that's available to you, but at the same time you have to go through all the hoops just to get it, and then it's up to an individual to make that decision. as compared to if it's strictly formula-driven. Granted, you put the numbers in the boxes, and however it spins, that's great. But I think by just doing a direct formula really is not that hopeful, because every individual has a unique situation, and every situation can't be placed into a box.
Thank you. Just lastly, the governor has proposed in the schools in the state of New York, high schools principally, a cell phone ban of sorts, and it's probably has some good reason for it because of the mental health of students and the distractions of a cell phone and so on. But how do we get to the right end on this? I don't know. Do you have any views on the cell phone ban that the governor is proposing?
It's, I guess, generation after generation, how things change. Now today it's devices in the rooms as compared to maybe when we were much younger, it was more about just being disruptive or using spitballs. But I like the idea of actually removing it, because the device itself is actually bullying, and we know what's going on today, that with the children on the Facebook and using as a means of bullying within the classroom, and then it just gives them a distraction where you're talking to another classmate and you're bullying somebody behind their back within the classroom, and it's also disruptive to the teacher. The teacher also has limitations on what they can do as far as discipline, so it's a trickle-down effect every which way possible.
Thank you. Senator Mayer.
Thank you, Mr. Pino, right?
Yes.
Your background, your expertise is in financial management and leadership. What is prompting you to apply to the Board of Regents, which is focused largely, not exclusively, on particularly K through 12 educational policy, less higher ed, although they have some responsibilities, and the professions? What's the motivating factor? What would you like to achieve if you're on the Board of Regents?
Well, my professional background, by all means, is financial driven.
Right.
But all of the non-for-profit work that I do, even though was on the financial aspect, was, again, but it was all related to educational programs that those non-for-profits had. And even today, where I'm volunteering my time as to mentor somebody, or when I put my time into the university. So education is important to me. As growing up, I went to school full-time at night for undergrad and grad, and I worked full-time during the day. So I understand the difficulties of going through, and I want to get to the point where have New York State offer the best education to its students as possible.
We totally agree on that. What, have you had the opportunity to either watch a Board of Regents meeting or be familiar with how the issues on their agenda and the issues that they confront when they meet monthly?
Yes, I watched the January meeting of 25. I tried to go back into 24, and there are no longer, the meetings aren't up there. So I imagine for space, you guys probably remove them, but then I saw a lot of the notes that were there. I also went back to December, I'm sorry, it wasn't December, I think it was in the spring of 2022, where the board, right after COVID, did interviews on Zoom for potential candidates to sit. Yeah.
Great, thank you so much, appreciate it.
Assemblywoman Hyman.
Thank you, Chair. I'm impressed with your background and having the courage to apply for such a position. One of the things that a lot of schools are doing on their own with budgets is financial literacy, financial education. There's no class that would teach students how to balance checkbooks, and I don't know who uses checks anymore, but a lot of students are using Cash App and Apple Pay, and so they're not, sometimes I think they don't value the actual dollar and how powerful it is. And you were able to go to school, at night and worked very hard to get both degrees. I think it's time for us as a state to really talk about building wealth and financial literacy on a grander scale, and I think you definitely have a background in which to do that. But the State Education Department doesn't dictate curricula, but they do have a lot of influence into school districts doing financial literacy. What would you say are some of the basic building blocks for young people in financial literacy, and how would you be able to do that if you were selected to serve on the Board of Regents?
Well, I think the high school of finance and economics on the downtown in Manhattan, they really try to do that and teach their students. When I volunteered my time there, I came in describing finance, accounting, showing some basic concepts about accounting and T accounts. I was able to even fast forward and bring it into a computer room and ask the students to look at real estate, and this was way before I was even in the real estate business here, because I wanted to give them a physical assets that they were accustomed. They have a home, they have a roof over their head, so I can share with them the idea of buying a particular property. How do you get there? Here's the finance, and show them some background. I think if you can get to the point where, I'm fast forwarding because we have a short of time, but if we can show the young adults the basics from savings, the compounding of interest and so forth, and how it calculates, even if you do a basic and small calculation, and I think they would really grasp the idea of the power of money and the power of compounding.
Assemblyman Smith?
Thank you, and thank you for joining us. What do you view would be, as a regent, your role in the community, in the education community? Again, it's an at-large position, so it is statewide. And I'll tell you, as a member of the New York State Assembly, I try to get into my schools in my district every 3 to 4 weeks. I try to be in a classroom and just see what's going on, but I find it to be challenging. Would you have the time and ability to do that, or what would you view, your day-to-day like as a regent?
So I didn't know if I would be allowed to actually go into the classrooms and so forth. I figured I would probably have the time to, or the
Probably
ability.
invited. You probably would be invited.
I would have the ability to meet with my local assemblyman and so forth and discuss ideas, but if I have the opportunity to go into a school and meet with a principal or assistant principal, or again, volunteer my time for somebody who wants to take college education or college credit from high school, I don't have that problem. I've done the homework for what it's required for me to dedicate my time here, and I've already spoken with the president of my employer, and we're on the same page. It's not going to be an issue.
Okay, so you'd be able to, go around the, okay, great,
Yeah.
thank you.
And just to add further, as I said, that I went to school full-time nights for undergrad and grad. Because I know the reason we have absenteeism is because children have to work. I went and got my working papers and at the age of 14 because I needed to work as well. So I understand the importance behind that. And if you want to work for a company on the books, obviously you need the working papers. If you're working off the books, the working papers don't matter much, but I was a recipient of that as well. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Pino, thank you very much for coming here today. You have, set aside your time to come here before us today. You have shown an interest in the Board of Regents, and we appreciate that. And I think your thoughts today were well received by this board. But we will let you know within the next couple of weeks of our decision and we're going, but always continue your interest in educating the kids of New York.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
It was an experience. I really appreciate your time.
Good. We thank you for coming. The next at 11:11, we're actually 4 minutes early. Daniel Lipsman. Wow. Good morning, sir. Mr. Lipsman. Am I
Yes.
pronouncing that right?
Yes.
Good. Okay, I'm Assemblyman Mike Benedetto. I'm chairman of the Assembly Education Committee, and I'm with fellow legislators here on the board, okay, both in the Assembly and the New York State Senate. We're here to listen to you. We want you to have some time to tell us about yourself. Not much time. We've only given you 3 minutes, but tell us a little bit about yourself, what your vision is for the Board of Regents, and after which we'll ask you a few questions. But in the meantime, we want you to relax and just casual, have a nice conversation. Make sure the green light for your microphone is lit, so everything is on the base of the microphone. And the floor is yours, sir.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dan Lipsman, and the Corner-Shenty know these hearings are a farce, that the fix is in. You've already decided who you want on the board, and you go through these motions to appear the process is legitimate. So why am I here in Albany today? To speak truth to power. Trump puts manifestly unqualified crap in top jobs, and the New York State Legislature seems incapable of doing differently. 22 years ago, I sat before a committee just like this one and decried that New York was spending $11,000 a head to miseducate the students. Today, it's $36,293 per student. Inflation doesn't account for 3.3 times the cost of educating a student a generation later. It's 91% above the national average, and what do we get for that money? On the last NAEP 2022, New York fourth graders ranked 32nd in reading and 46th in math. In 8th grade, 9th in reading and 22nd in math. That kind of product cost would put GM out of business overnight. I know that teachers are not responsible for all the factors in educational attainment, but this is ridiculous. Every course in every school should be set out as a series of learning objectives. That is, what knowledge, skills, and abilities do I expect the student to demonstrate as a direct and proximate result of my instruction? Every part of the curriculum must be examined to ascertain its value to the student in the classroom. This isn't rocket science. You can't fool me. Many members of the legislature owe their jobs to the teachers' unions. If you don't support increased salaries, pensions, and lower class sizes, you won't be sitting in the Assembly or Senate. That's a lesson the general public needs to know. I came to Albany because somebody has to speak on behalf of the students who have no union. There is an Italian word, basta, enough, enough of the status quo. Unlike Charles Durning's Texas governor character in The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas, I will not do the sidestep. I am not a politician, although in '96 I ran for the community school board and lost for two minor reasons: lack of money and organization. I judge each issue on its own merits. I am not a Republican, a Democrat, a liberal, or a conservative. I'm ready to answer any and all substantive questions on educational policy you have right here and now. I doubt I'll be taken up on this offer. I do have a couple of ideas that I would do if I was on the Board of Regents. First of all, the yeshivas. The State Education Department has not done its job, okay? If they want to continue to operate the yeshivas, I would insist that they have to do more than simply teach the Torah and Hebrew. They have to do more than that, okay? And if they don't, I have a way. If the State Education Department will not do its job, there's another way to do it. It's called the penal law. It's called educational neglect. It's called endangering the welfare of a minor. You have a copy, I believe, of my qualifications and the number of times I have sued various educational entities in this state. The other thing I would like to do if I ever get on the board, which I don't expect to, is to push so that anybody that has a high school equivalency diploma, that you can get that, that you can get a high school equivalency diploma at any age. If you can demonstrate the requisite education, then that's it. You can go on to college. I've already seen the type of, from Ewald Nyquist to Richard Mills. It's very sad what has gone on in this state. As a matter of fact, I have personal knowledge of Lester Young when he was with the New York City Department of Education. My daughter, at 14 and a half, earned a high school equivalency diploma. I had to go into court to try to fight to get her that diploma. She started college at 11 years old, part-time, based on my efforts. I would like to be able to do for the children of this state what I have done for my daughter. If you have any questions about educational policy, I will answer every last one of them directly, no sidestep.
Mr. Lippman, you have a very interesting way of trying to sell yourself for a position on the Board of Regents. I have been sitting here over a number of years listening to many people, but you are unique, sir, okay? Do you have any questions, Senator?
I just have this question. You started with saying you don't think you will be selected, and you really want to come and make your voice heard about your views about the Board of Regents and educational policy. Do you follow what the sort of current work of the Board of Regents, for example, on the issue of substantial equivalency, which you raised about yeshivas?
Yes, I do, Senator Mayor.
Yes, so I don't know if you're aware, they have taken action now against a selective number of yeshivas that they have determined with the New York City Education Department have not been substantially equivalent. They actually have taken action. Are you aware of that?
I believe that what the State Education Department has done is too little and too late. I believe that the best way to do it is with the criminal law. My mommy and daddy didn't send me to law school for nothing. And my daughter happens to be a licensed attorney at law. Not only that, but when she was denied the opportunity, I had to exile her to take the GED test in New Jersey, right across the bridge, because at 16 you could take it there. There was no residency requirement. And therefore, at 14 and a half, when she met the education requirements,
Right.
I filed a lawsuit when we weren't given the diploma. When that clown in a black robe, Bernard Malone Jr., said, "No, I'm not striking it down. Doesn't violate the equal protection laws," I had filed a notice of appeal, which gave me 9 months to perfect the appeal. Instead of that, I exiled my daughter because she was almost 16 to take the test in Jersey, where she scored 96 through 99 percentiles. Then, having had that in hand, she was able to get the earned associate degree, which she had already gotten, but which the state of New York said, "No, you can't have that unless you have a high school diploma precedent." By 16 and a half, she had her high school diploma, her associate degree, her bachelor's degree, age at 18, her master's degree, and at 22, she was the youngest graduate in the history of CUNY Law School with the highest GPA at 3.91. This is what Lester Young, your current chancellor, years ago said, "Oh no, we can't issue her a GED." I would like to, I don't expect to get it. There's 10 people applying for this job. But I can say one thing, okay? If I ever got on, I would fight for the kids in this state. And to further answer you, Senator Mayor, again, I said it's too little, too late. But more importantly, when I said my mommy and dad didn't send me to law school for nothing, I don't have standing because I don't have a child in the system.
Right, understood.
But I would say this, that I would try to make a referral to the police authorities to be able to move against any one of the yeshivas that are not providing a proper education for the children of this state.
Okay, I understand. Thank you.
Mr. Lippman, I thank you very much for coming here today, for taking your time out and your interest in education.
No more
We will be in
questions.
touch.
No more questions.
No more questions, sir. Thank you for your
Thank you.
honesty.
Steve Rossi can send the rejection by email. Have a nice day, folks.
Michelle Zinneman Baldwin, Zinnoman. She's running late. Is there anybody else out there?
Yeah, let's take the next one. Yeah.
Well, we'll take a few minutes just to sit and joke about our.
Good morning, Assemblymember Benedetto.
I don't put on my microphone. Yes. I'm sitting here, as you well know, with elected officials who are interested in education of the students of New York. You've been here before. You've gone through this process. So you know it's just a conversation between the two of us. We want to know your views. We're going to ask you some questions, okay? So I want you to sit back and relax and begin. You got 3 minutes or so. Begin to
Okay.
tell us about yourself.
I think I got this down to 3 minutes. So, Senator Mayer, Senator Stavisky, Assemblymember Benedetto, Senator Hinman, Assemblymember Hinman, excuse me, Mr. Smith, and Mr. Otis. Thank you all for being here and giving me this opportunity. I'm Nan Eileen Mead, and I am seeking an at-large seat on the Board of Regents. I previously served, as you know, on the board from 2016 to 2022, representing the 1st Judicial District, lending my skills as a former finance professional to serve as co-chair of the Subcommittee on State Aid. During that time, the board first sought funding to study and replace the now nearly 20-year-old foundation aid formula. Growing up in Yorkville on the east side of Manhattan, I saw firsthand the negative impact of funding inequity on public education. My elementary school was starved for resources in a deteriorating physical plant. When it was targeted for closure, my new school changed the trajectory of my life, exposing me to the arts and advanced coursework in math and foreign languages. As a proud graduate of the Bronx High School of Science at NYU, today I actively support programming for Bronx Science students, many of whom are first-generation college-bound students like myself. And I provide college access programming at a Bronx-based community organization. When my children attended public school in Harlem, I served on multiple boards in the New York City parent engagement structure and sought to address resource inequities such as library staffing, which is a key position that advances media literacy education. I'm still active on this issue at the Center for Educational Equity at Teachers College and its Democracy Ready New York Coalition, working with Michael Rebell and Jessica Wolf to prepare all students for civic participation. Now living in Westchester County, I have perspective on the workings of suburban school districts as my children complete their education. And I've collaborated with LIU Hudson's campus in Purchase and the folks at Southern Westchester BOCES. Concurrent with my service on the Board of Regents, I completed 2 master's degrees at SUNY Empire. Distance learning gave me perspective on innovation in higher education within the SUNY ecosystem and statewide exposure to other post-traditional students, career changers' parents, dedicated educators, and civil servants. As a non-traditional educator and scholar, I help run a small academic journal with a hands-on approach to emerging scholars, typically underrepresented in academia. If selected to return to the board, I will support efforts to replace foundation aid, advance robust civic preparation in the Portrait of a Graduate transition, and creative efforts to further develop pipelines in educator shortage areas. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for your statement, Ms. Mead. I presume you might have some ideas that you may want to share with us on the foundation aid formula.
I might.
Am I correct on that?
Yes, yes, you are correct.
Please, tell me.
Sure. So the formula, as we all know, is nearly 20 years old. The changing demographics of New York State and the evolving educational needs of students have made it to the point where it's really no longer workable to serve students currently in the state of New York. We have higher levels of English language learners. The formula does not necessarily account for migrant students who have a wide variety of needs and students who are homeless. The forums that the Rockefeller Institute had run over the summer yielded a number of additional deficiencies. Mental health was a really high priority for many folks who testified during those hearings. And it's time for a new formula. I'm going to stop there. I could probably go on longer, but those are the ones that rise to the top.
Let me, maybe I agree with you when you talk about mental health being one of the considerations that might go into the formula. How do you weigh that the children in Western New York are more in need of mental health than the kids in the Southern Tier? I'm not sure how you would measure that.
So what we're hearing from district and school leaders is that mental health resources are prioritized to special education students who have IEPs and other immediate needs, and that general education students really do not receive the benefit of those resources. And so there's a growing crisis in mental health. Even before the pandemic, teen suicide rates very high. It is one of the leading causes of death among young people, and so has worsened since the pandemic. The state simply needs more mental health resources.
Thank you. Senator?
Thank you. Thank you, Nan. Nice to see you. So I think it'd be helpful to explain to us, having served on the Board of Regents.
Yes.
And you were co-chair of an important committee. And now you moved to Westchester and you're seeking an at-large seat. The motivation for going back to the Board of Regents, what you think you could bring to it that maybe it doesn't currently have since you left, what the kind of impact you could have, since you know actually how it operates, you know how the meetings work, you know the issues. What is the motivating force for you?
Sure. I think we're certainly in a unique time, very unique time. Yesterday's announcement at the federal level, quite devastating to a lot of folks, and I think we don't really have a full understanding of its implications until the defunding works its way through the system. And I think at the end of the day, there's going to be a lot of need for folks who have been in the education policymaking space for a while to come up with solutions, particularly to the funding challenges that are looming. They're coming. And I recall from my early days as a board member, it really takes a while to settle in. Getting, understanding the meeting cadence, going through that packet, learning the priorities of each of the program offices, it can take quite a while to settle in. And in our current environment, things are moving very fast. And so, sometimes it's time to throw yourself into the fray, and the time seemed right.
No, I appreciate that. The other thing is the President Trump's executive order on schools, I think is in many ways directly contrary to the policies of culturally responsive and sustaining education that SED has pronounced. Do you have some views on how New York State is going to be able to comply, if need be, with that executive order, which really goes to conduct in a classroom and a teacher's ability to do what he or she thinks is right?
Sure. My reaction to that is still evolving, beyond the fact that it's devastating. I mean, as you know, I served on the board when a lot of those policies were developed, and I was very proud of that work as a board member. And so to be faced with an environment where many of those initiatives may come undone, it definitely gives food for thought. And I think, certainly from a funding perspective, there are, to the extent that there are communities that want to continue that work, there may be a turn to the private sector as far as that goes. And then the rest will have to get sorted through the political process.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I should note that we have been joined at the table by two assemblymen, Assemblyman Otis and Assemblyman O'Farrell. Ranker Smith.
Thank you, and thank you for your service previously and your interest in coming back on the Regents. It's funny because I'm looking at your resume from 2016 to 2022 on the Regents. It actually feels that the issues that were prevalent and before the pandemic seem to be vastly different now, but some remain the same. Mental health, you mentioned. What new challenges do you view could be tackled in this upcoming term if you return to the Regents? Or what would be on your high priority list?
Certainly the transition to the Portrait of a Graduate is really high on the priority list. I mean, it's a multi-year process. It will require funding every year for the department to be able to hire the necessary staff because the decision-making piece of that is not even done. I mean, that's the work that's occurred over the last couple of years was only kind of the phase one, and now, or maybe even phase zero, I think they called it phase zero. And so now they need to move to actual decision-making in the content areas. And as has been the case in the past, the department's going to have to convene content experts. The movement into the humanities sleeves and the STEM sleeves will be a new and unique approach for state ed.
Now, it's interesting that you mentioned that because I think I find myself divided because I feel that, and a lot of people I've heard really feel that 5 years is too long a phase in, yet we've seen what happens if we phase something in too quickly. So how do you balance that? Because obviously it's also an allocation of resources as well, but.
Yeah, oh, it is an allocation of resources, and I mean, look, I can't speak to what will happen at the end. I know
Right.
that, and it is challenging to see how it could take 5 years, and I don't want to second guess that. But I guess it's fair to say that in order to get from here to there, again, you need folks who are really familiar with that policymaking space and understand the cadence of how things get done at state ed in order to really help it move forward so that it runs on time and not late, not 6 or 7 years.
Thank you. I agree with your comments. Thanks.
I want to thank you very much for coming here today.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for having me.
You've inconvenienced yourself to be here. We appreciate that. We appreciate you answering our questions. Thank you for your prior service, and we'll be in touch within the next couple of weeks.
That's
Thank
good.
you, ma'am.
Thank you. Have a great
Safe
day.
travels. Hoping they're not.
Yes. Thank you. Yes.
We're all interested in education in the state of New York, as I'm sure you are, and that's why we're here. And we just want to have a little conversation with you. Number one, we give you some time to make a short statement, 3 minutes or so, telling us about yourself, why you want to be a regent, what vision you might have for being a regent. And then afterwards, we'll ask you a few questions about yourself. And in the meantime, we want you to relax and
Thank
take it
you.
easy and go slow and relax. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. First of all, you all look great on YouTube.
Might be getting a review.
Last 2 days, anyway. You look good. Thank you. Chairpersons and esteemed members of the Education Committee of the New York State Senate and Assembly. It is an immense honor to be here before you today. First, let me express my deep admiration for the committee's unwavering dedication to advancing the educational landscape of New York State with a profound understanding of the pivotal role that education plays in the development of individuals and society at large. I'm excited, really excited, to have an opportunity to be part of this process. I am particularly drawn to this appointment and endeavor because of the Regent's commitment to providing equitable access to quality education and enhancing student outcomes and ensuring the integrity and the accountability of the state educational system. The Regent's other roles are very important, fostering cultural opportunities. New York's history through its library, museum, and archives, I firmly believe, plays a vital, crucial role in shaping the future of all the residents of New York State. And I am eager to contribute my skills, passion, and vision to contribute recommend, and to enhance the responsibilities of the Board of Regents. My current role as a school board member, Catskill High School, and the duties required has enhanced my desire to contribute on a broader level to the education of New York residents in a more expansive role. First, I am interested in improving the proficiency of testing results of the state's K-8 students in English language arts, mathematics, science, based on preliminary data for the 2023-24 school year. I'd like to review the academic and vocational degree programs offered to students in both high schools and colleges, the authority of local school boards to manage their school districts, to determine school district policy, and authorization to implement policy, and it is limited by some of the guidelines of the State Education Department. Oversight management of the cultural assets of New York State, museums, libraries, and historical archives. I am not an educator, yet I bring to the Board of Regents a learning experience and a perspective steep in the experience of parenthood, community involvement, government service, work experience, and military service. A commitment to the further Regents' role in education and cultural services. And I thank you again for listening to me.
Thank you, sir. Well said. You're involved in the high school.
Yes, I'm on the board, high school board, Catskill High School in Greene County.
So one of the proposals by the governor in the budget is to do something to regulate and maybe possibly ban cell phones. I'm interested in what your views, and maybe what you guys do down there in Catskills High School.
We've already started. We've already started a cell phone ban with pockets. When students come into the high school, they deposit their cell phones in a pocket, gets locked up. It seems to have been working fairly well, although if I was their age, I probably would have a problem with having my cell phone taken away. But it's working well. We've had some good feedback from the teachers, and we have had some feedback from the parents, although mostly positive. So I think it's a great idea.
And the students?
The students are students.
Yeah.
I think that majority of the students seem to understand the rationale behind not having cell phones.
Any pushback from them?
Pardon me?
Pushback?
Yes, yeah, there's been pushback, obviously. Not everybody's going to agree. Not every young teenager or young student's going to agree with what authorities say. But yes, there has been some pushback.
But none to speak of.
None of that. We're moving forward. We think is imperative to the learning experience that those cell phones not be permitted.
When was this initiated?
Just recently, the beginning of the new school year.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Senator, you have anything?
Yeah, I do. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for your service, too, Mr. Izzo. Are you on the board of the Catskill School District or the Catskill High School? You said the high school.
Well, that's the high school. The school district, it's the high school. It's the whole district. It's the elementary school.
Oh,
It's the
okay.
middle school and the high school. It's both.
Okay. You're on the school
I'm
board?
on that board. There's just one board.
And you're elected to the school board?
Yes, I was elected for a 3-year term. I'm finishing up my second year.
I see.
I did run once before. Was not approved by 9 votes, so I ran again and got elected by 13 votes. So
Okay,
it
you
worked
know how
out
we
well.
feel sometimes.
Yes.
Question for you. So do you participate in any of the meetings of the New York State School Boards Association?
Yes, I do. Obviously, I had to take all the requirements
Oh, yes,
for a
you're
school
talking about
board
the
member.
training, yes.
And I have participated in seminars, Zoom seminars, I did not attend the School Board Association in New York City, but I try to keep abreast through the newsletters and the information that's given out by the School Board Association.
So, you know, the governor proposed in her budget some changes to the foundation aid formula, which I think, if I had to guess, Catskill is in the hold harmless and got a 2% increase.
Well,
I don't have the runs in front of me.
I can tell you that since we just had our first budget review last week, foundation aid is a little less than what we expected, but not a majority loss like was proposed last year.
Yes, understood.
But it's still a concern. Last year, interestingly enough, we held our budget to no tax increase, which is unusual for our school district, because we did have a decent fund balance, and we were making enough money through our interest accounts to help offset that. And of course, the foundation aid came in higher than we thought. This year, it's going to be a little difficult. We probably will have a tax increase. So as far as Catskill is concerned, the budget looks okay for us. I'm not sure, in reviewing some of the news reports, if it looks okay for other school districts.
Right. Understood, understood. I appreciate that you're familiar with sort of the details of how these proposals impact the district. The last thing I want to say is, the governor is also, or there's been conversations about going forward, how school districts could use their reserves and the other issues that were on the table last year. Catskill used some of its reserves. Were they in?
Well, Catskill was above the reserve limit.
That's what I was going to ask.
And so we decided to be smart, and we transferred some of our fund balance into capital accounts,
Yes.
reserve accounts. So we are now below the 2% fund balance limit. I think we're right now at 1.7% of our fund balance. So we do have fund balance, obviously left over from last year because we didn't use the fund balance. So that'll be carried forward into this school year. Not all of it, but some of it, which obviously is going to help offset. My personal opinion is I don't think there should be any restriction on a school's fund balance. None whatever. Counties and other municipalities have no restrictions. They can accumulate as much fund balance as they want. And I believe, since the school districts and the tax of that district is one of the biggest numbers that a resident has to pay, including businesses, individuals, senior citizens, that the more that we are confident and conservative in our spending, and the more we can use that to help fund balance, that in essence helps the school district.
I understand. Thank you.
Assemblyman O'Farrell.
Good morning. How are you? Oh,
Morning.
wow, that's loud. My apologies.
Oh, no, thank you.
First and foremost, you and I share something in common. We're both Navy veterans.
Pardon me?
We're both Navy veterans.
Oh, yes.
So thank you very much.
Navy strong.
Navy strong. I was on the USS Ponce LBD-15, believe it or
I
not.
was on the USS Coral Sea.
All right, awesome. And I also see that you got a Navy Commendation Medal as well,
I do.
amongst other medals. So I thank you for your service.
Well,
my-
and a good conduct medal.
and a good conduct. Yes, with an honorable discharge.
You know, Navy people, you gotta have that good conduct medal.
I have one as well, so I thank you for your service. Thank
you.
And I
Thank you
thank you
very
for your service in another capacity as it relates to the education of our young people. My thing is, I've been in the NYPD for 25 years, and safety is very paramount for me, particularly for our young people. I was also a school safety supervisor in a school district. And my thing was, when I speak to young people, their issues were with school safety, not with safety on overall, but more so building relationships with our school safety. I would like to know what recommendations you may have to improve school safety relationships with our student body, administrators, faculty, and the community members at large.
We have reviewed our school safety, and I will tell you, my personal opinion is we should have metal detectors at certain entrances. We do have school resource officers. We do have school resource officers in all our schools. We need to enhance our entrance and exits in the school system. We have the automatic lockdowns in our school system, that when there is an alert that the door is automatically locked, you can't get in, you can't get out. Our teachers and our students have been talked about, have been schooled in school safety. But I think there may be more we can do. I think we need to screen outside cameras, inside cameras. I don't want to make schools look like a jail. Schools are not supposed to be that. They're schools. But you can work through the school system, work through the building programs to enhance school security. Very important to us and to our school district. In any school district in New York State, it's very, very important. And I think that we're moving along fairly well. We do limit access. Obviously, you can't get into school. All the doors are locked. Can't get into school unless you go through a main room where you have to sign in and you get a visitor's badge. So it is very important to me. Thank you, Simon.
Actually, Mr. Chairman, can I just rephrase that question? Because I actually wanted to know how can we improve the relationships with our school safety, not so much the safety aspect of it, but improving relationships with our school safety, faculty, student, and communities, because I've heard quite a few students complain that there is no relationship or lack thereof between our school safety.
Sorry, I misunderstood your question.
No worries, sir.
That's a learning experience. That is something that should be mandated. All teachers, all students, all administrators should have to go through a safety course to understand the issues that are outstanding for the school system. I think that the Board of Regents, if it wishes to, obviously can move forward with a project that would make it a requirement. It may be already a requirement, but make it a requirement that school systems every year have seminars with their students, with their faculty, with their administration to go over and enhance the school safety system, the school instructions. It's important. It's really important, and the Board of Regents does have a role to play, and maybe it should be one of their priorities. Does that answer your question? I'm sorry. Yeah, okay, thank you.
Mr. Izzo, we want to thank you very much for coming here today.
Oh, thank you.
For the time you spent waiting and traveling up to Albany. We thank you for your interest in the Board of Regents, your interest in education in general. We hope that interest continues, and we will be in touch with you within the next couple weeks.
Okay, great.
Thank you for coming.
Any more
and safe home.
questions? None? Oh, thank you. And again, Navy strong? Yes.
Have a good day, sir.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. And if I was from Mechanicville, it would be ISO.
Excuse me. Okay.
But I live in Greene County. My father was in
My
Greene County.
apologies, sir.
Yeah. Thank you again. I appreciate it.
What'd you think of that? And the, not him, the one before the lady, Mead, who was the former regent. Three. Michelle,
Yes, how are you?
welcome.
Sorry, I was a little late.
We understand sometimes there are difficulties, but we're glad you're here.
Yes.
Take a minute, relax, and.
Okay.
Okay. I'm Assemblyman Mike Benedetto. I'm chairman of the Assembly Education Committee, and I'm sitting with fellow legislators, both in the Senate and in the Assembly. But one thing we all have in common is that we have a great interest in the education of the students and the education system in the state of New York. And we think very highly of the Board of Regents and who we put on the Board of Regents. And so that's why you're here today, to interview for that position. And we want you to settle back and get ready to tell us a little bit about yourself and what your vision might be for the, you being on the board, okay? And after which your statement is made, we're going to ask you a few questions, okay? But we just want you to relax. You've got 3 minutes or so, okay, to tell us, and then we'll take. But make sure your microphone is on. I believe it probably is. There's a green light at the base of the microphone stand.
Okay.
No.
Can you hear me?
That's it. Yes, you can.
Well, I prepared something, but sometimes I think it's better if you say it just from the heart.
Please do.
First of all, I'm very honored to be here. I've never, ever imagined that I'd be here, but I have spent 35 years in the field of serving individuals with disabilities, dually diagnosed individuals, so.
Can you bring the mic a little closer?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm a little nervous. This is a little intimidating for someone. But I started 35 years ago in the field of, oh, now I'm really loud. So working with individuals with developmental disabilities and mental health. And from that time, that's all I've done. Through many different organizations. I also had a private practice for 25 years. But in that course, I've always worked with either students or in their families through Rensselaer County Mental Health and Questar, which is, do you know Questar BOCES? You're probably familiar with that. I developed programs in both of those agencies. So when I was at Rensselaer County Mental Health, when I first started, they handed me a box with a couple of folders, and that was before the New York State Home and Community-Based Waiver Program was in place, and which was not even named that back then. That's how long ago it was. And so I went out in Rensselaer County, the rural community, and I started the program for Rensselaer County Mental Health. And I ran that program for 9 years. And when I left there, I went to Questar 3 BOCES, and I started a private practice at the same time. And through Questar BOCES, I started a program for social emotional students who had behavior problems. That's what they called it, but it was really a mental health program. So we developed a social emotional program, K through 12. I started in the high school setting, and once that was up and running, that's now the Sackett Center, which is over in East Greenbush. I went to Skodex schools and started a middle school program, and then I went to their George Washington Elementary School before COVID hit, and then I stayed there all through COVID, and recently just left there last year. So I've had all of my experience working in this field of education through the mental health system. My vision is that all students receive mental health services. I had a vision 5 years ago with Questar to start a mental health clinic, but it didn't go through. I thought that we should have a clinic because of all the students that we worked with, because it was a social emotional program, couldn't get services outside of school, a lot of them. And I thought the idea would be to have our own clinic within the school system, so everyone that needed those services would get them. So now I'm someplace else. I don't know if I'm supposed to say where I'm working now, and that's what we're doing. We're bringing a clinic to the adults because they're all closing down. Ridge Health is closing down in Schenectady at the end of June, so that individuals with dual diagnosis aren't going to have any mental health services. So that's what I'm doing. I'm advocating for all those services on my own. And I think that that's what we should be doing through the mental health system, through the school systems, because it starts so young now, especially after COVID. I served that all through COVID. My private practice stayed open. I didn't close it, and I ran it by myself. No co-pays, no nothing. I just did it on my own. So that's my vision, that everyone has services through the education system, through adulthood, through the college experience programs. I also worked through Russell Sage with that through Questar, and now where I am now, we have one. And I think it should be a much broader spectrum.
And that probably is the reason, well, it is the reason that the governor has proposed a ban on cell phones in schools.
I agree.
You have any
It's
thoughts
horrible.
on that? Should that be implemented
I
as
agree.
proposed?
I really do agree. In our school, we had so many behavioral issues with our students around cell phones. And we never believed in taking them away. We would ask them to hand them in and give them back at the end of the day. We would even charge them for them so that, when they got on the bus, they could have them. It just is so distracting. And there's so many things that they can watch during the day that they don't want to go to school or they don't want to learn when they're in school. It's ruining our education system. I probably shouldn't say that, but I feel that it is. And I've been in the education system. I'm old, I'm 63, so I've been around a long time.
I wish I was 63. So the students, well, tell me about the policy in the school. What kind of a policy do you have? They give in the phones? Do
So-
they give them in willingly? Do some kids sneak them in their school bags? Or
Yeah.
what
So
happens?
a lot of the times, they'll say that they're going to hand them over. So I retired at Questar in August, but that's very recent. They would say they would hand them over, and it'd end up in a behavior. Because, of course, what I only worked with was kids the kids had behaviors. That's why, I also did a lot of crisis intervention work. I could go on and on about what I did, but I also did critical incidences in the community for Questar and through my private practice. So unfortunately, I worked in situations where if, children died in a fire, or if there was a shooting. I worked in a case, and there was a shooting in Troy where all family members were murdered. And then I would go in and do all the counseling with, a set of with a team, and we'd make sure that everyone got counseling and trauma services. And then we have the plan in place for follow-up services. So I've done a lot of work.
Senator Mayer has a question.
Yes, thank you. You retired from Questar in August, is that right?
In August, yes.
Yes. If you were to be on the Board of Regents, given that mental health is your priority, obviously, do you have specific recommendations that you would want to bring to ensure there's mental health services? And right now, mental health is really not paid for separately, other than foundation aid, which goes to every public school. There are some small pots. What would be your recommendations, both on ensuring access to mental health services and how we pay for it?
Well, that's why I'm recommending and advocating strongly right now through my organization. I work for Living Resources right now, and we're bringing a clinic right to that agency itself. I think that all schools, districts, should have funding to have the clinic right in the school. It's not an impossibility. There are grants out there that we could find funding to bring in the clinic right to the schools. And there are psychiatrists and nurse practitioners who would do that. I have a group of people that I know personally that would work in a school system. And some are, not everybody wants to make a huge salary. This could be a part-time clinic. It doesn't have to be a full-time clinic. Most often, it's for counseling services. You have school social workers that work there. They should be using those. The way that they use school social workers, since I was a school social worker, is not exactly the way that they should be using them. School system has to revamp the way that they're using school social workers. They're using them for funding from themselves. That's not really what they're supposed to be doing. If you knew how they do the billing, I mean, it's a complicated system, the way that they're using them. They really should be using them for their mental health, for mindfulness, teaching kids how to use coping strategies more than they are. I believe in mindfulness strategies. I could go on and on. There are definitely ways that we could use our school personnel differently than we are and make it more effective.
Also, have you had an opportunity to watch any of the Board of Regents meetings or sit in person in any Board of Regents meetings?
Never. We're not really allowed to do that when you work in a school. You have
No,
to.
I meant to
outside
watch
of
them
school.
on after they occur, when they're posted on the website.
No, I haven't.
Okay,
I could.
good, thank you.
I've done a lot of research ever since I got called.
Thank you.
Assemblywoman Hyman.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, good afternoon, night. Really interested in your background, especially with dealing with IEPs and we always talk a lot about the students, but sometimes we don't always talk about the professionals, the staff that post-pandemic, and some of the issues that our teachers and
Yeah.
administrators are handling on a day-to-day basis when children come through the door and are faced with so many issues. So I would just like to know, being on the Regents is a huge responsibility. There are various committees that are on the Board of Regents. And I would just like to know how you see your background, particularly something needed at this time, and you definitely have a wealth of experience. How do you see that fitting into the structure of the Regents? Because I think this is a great opportunity for us to take advantage of a professional like you.
I think I could fit it in so many different ways. When I was looking at this morning and thinking about where I could be most helpful, I think trauma-informed care for staff. I think we are faced with so many different issues. One of the things that I found myself working a lot with staff is to remember who we're dealing with when these kids come through the door. What happened either last night or this morning before we're trying to teach? Did they eat? Did they have a bath? Do they have clothing? It's the main things that we have to think about now that we didn't think about before, because parents are struggling so much too. And before we're sitting and, I hate to say, we're not yelling per se at a child, but we're putting demands on a child who knows what they saw the night before or on the way to school, or who knows if their parents came home. We have to remember what trauma is, and it's trauma for them, and it's trauma for us. And where are we reacting? And what trauma did we have in the past? And if we're bringing that to work. And that's where I think I could be very effective. And that's why I say mindfulness and techniques and teaching everyone just to stop and take a breath once in a while and think before you act.
Thank you.
We have been joined on the panel by Assemblyman Noah Burrows.
Hi.
Assemblyman Otis.
Very interested in your background, and certainly as a social worker, you sort of know that you never say no to anything,
No,
which is sort of the job.
Working on boundaries.
Job of being a regent. I'm curious, in your experience, any observations you have about how different school districts are dealing with their providing mental health service challenges?
Yeah, I do think there's differences. I think rural communities need a lot more help sometimes. I think we forget about people. When I was working, Rensselaer County is a great example. They've done some of them have done some really good work, but then there's underfunding, different populations. I think there's a lot to be said about integration. We're not doing such a good job sometimes in some areas. We really have to work on that. We have to get out there and make sure we're hitting everyone, not just inner city schools, but rural communities really have to understand about mental health. And a lot of times they don't want to take the service. And we have to let people know it's okay to ask for help. It's really hard for some people to take the help. That's a big thing.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Cinnamon Baldwin, thank you very much for coming here
Thank
today.
you.
We
Really,
appreciate.
Very honored that you guys even asked me to be here. I was a wreck on the way in, that's why I was so late.
Oh, no.
Changed my outfit 5 times, you see my bed.
We're
My
glad
colleague was
you're
like,
here.
"What are you doing,
We're
Mom?"
glad you did a good job. Wonderful. We're going to be in touch with you within the next couple weeks.
All right, thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
for your interest.
All right. Oh, the other thing, everyone should have a therapy dog for school.
Oh.
I have 2. They do a great job for the kids. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It is 12:11. We are at the point, we're about 15 minutes early. That's a wonderful thing to say. Now, supposedly, we should have a Eric McDowell, who is the last person who's applying for the at-large position. Steve, Eric McDowell? There we go. That's who it is.
They had to.
Mr. McDowell,
Yes, sir.
welcome, sir. Take your time. No,
Oh, okay, that's fine. I always wondered if someone was going to do that.
afternoon, sir.
Oh, wonderful. Hi, thank you. I probably would have done something like that.
Mr. McDowell, please sit down, relax, take it easy. My name is Assemblyman Mike Benedetto. I'm head of the Assembly Chair for Education. I'm here with fellow legislators, both in the Senate and the Assembly, and we all have one thing in common. We are intensely interested in education and the education in the state of New York, the well-being of that education system, and ultimately to give the best experience for our children. And that's why you're here, because you want to be one of the people shaping that education philosophy. And so the way we set this up is, first we want you, in this short time we've allotted to you, about 3 minutes or so, to tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe what your vision might be, and as succinct as you can be. And then we'll ask further questions about yourself. But in the meantime, we just want you to relax and go easy, and it kind of a social little conversation back and forth. So, the mic is yours. Make sure it's on. There should be a green
Test
light.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3.
There you go. Go ahead,
I
sir.
do events for business, so I always check those for sure. Well, my name is Eric McDowell, and first and foremost, I thank you very much for this wonderful opportunity to be considered to serve as a member of the New York State Board of Regents. I have spent decades working in education, providing public and media relations services to students at various colleges. My services included budget management, recognition for the students both regionally and nationally, event management, and media releases and promotions. I can tell you it was a blessing to work with young people for young people, especially watching them develop their education and develop personally as well, as they begin to plan their professional future. So important and so exciting. I always said, and I quote, "When our tank runs empty, the students fuel it, and they fill it right back up." Recently, I served a 2-year term as the PTA president of a middle school, using my skills and experience to provide the students with events and the staff and teachers with funding for projects by raising funds. Projects like new fans for the previously very hot cafeteria, just as one example. If I am fortunate to be provided with this opportunity, I will learn and I will listen, just like those students did. My hope is that students can return more so to the in-person interaction and creativity, just like we saw before COVID. Clubs and groups meeting in person, developing teamwork, finding their creativity in the arts, and talking and interacting instead of their head down on that device. I was a very shy, quiet young boy from Cape Cod who became an outgoing, comfortable, confident young man, all thanks to education. So I want to thank you, all of your time that you're providing for this and other candidates in consideration. And most of all, thank you all for your service.
Thank you, sir. We gave you 3 minutes. You just used 2.5. That's pretty impressive. Listen, you have some interest in sports and education of young people with sports, and so I'm kind of interested myself. And I know, for instance, that in soccer, okay, there is the use of heading in soccer, okay? But the Soccer Federation, the Youth Soccer Federation, has outlawed heading for students who are below 13 years old. And in hockey, The Hockey Federation has done the same thing for youth hockey. You can't do body checking, okay? But yet, at the same time, in football, they allow football, tackle football, to happen with kids as young as 5, years old. And do you have any views on that? Should the football people do what soccer and hockey have done?
I am concerned about the health and safety of all student athletes, and I have since a freshman in college.
Yeah.
And what I was really concerned with also was the lack of opportunity for women, female sports. It was pathetic, to be frank. And to see that develop has been very important to me. But fortunately, in working with athletic trainers, I've seen their concerns for safety, and I think funding is very important to provide the latest, safest devices, whether it be helmets or other activities. I think those are very essential for the safety, especially young people, young developing boys and girls that play the sports. We want to ensure their safety. We want to ensure that they enjoy what they do. It's not about a win or loss to me. As far as I'm concerned, it's about competing, and it's about teamwork. Just like the team in this room, sports provides teamwork. It helps develop people to work together, and they can succeed. But many do not go into sports. They go into professional opportunities. The other thing I do want to touch on the sports side is 5 years ago, I just touched about how women's sports was basically non-existent. 5 years ago, with media friends here, I asked them, and they said, go for it, and I created the Capital District Sports Women of the Year. So each year at Proctor's, we honor 10 high school and 3 college female student athletes for community service and academics, as well as athletics. And I even told Caitlin Clark, who you may know is the young Billie Jean King, if you will, of what she did and what she did here at Albany, where I worked the NCAA tournament for Mr. Belber and the arena, and I talked to her about it. So I know it was a safety issue, but I think it's important to say that to me, I'm really proud of how women's sports has grown. And CD SWOY now provides me an evening, as well as press throughout the spring and summer, to see a young woman be honored and be humbled for all she does in the community and the classroom. It's not just about the playing arena. Thank you.
Just to talk to the safety in sports and female sports in particular, just plug it into your mind. It's an interesting thing, lacrosse, which has body checking and hits of bodies and so on. Men who play the sport must wear a helmet to protect their brains. Thank God for that, okay? But interestingly enough, there's no such rule for females in that particular sport, and just keep that in your mind in the future.
Field
okay?
hockey, another example, yes.
yeah.
Safety is essential for all, and the funds can be there, and the equipment now is tremendous. I know that for a fact.
Assemblywoman Hyndman.
I used to play college basketball, and I'm really glad that you understand the importance of women in sports. And although women in basketball have definitely moved than when I was in college, thank you for all of your advocacy. I see that you are Director of Media Relations for the Golden State Warriors. Great team, probably a great experience. Just wondering, with all of this background, because I do, we talk about a lot of the academics, but we don't talk about the team building that comes from being on sports teams, particularly at the Regents level. How do you see your experience meshing in with, I don't know if you've looked at the backgrounds of the Regents and so forth, but how do you see that playing into the committees that many of the Regents serve on? And your background is different. I think it's a great breath of fresh air because, sports and arts is a huge part of the education of our children and our young adults. How do you see your background fitting in?
Well, briefly, they call me the Forrest Gump of public relations, and here's why. I worked the Atlanta Olympics on an overnight shift, and there was a bombing, for those of you that remember 1996, working in a crisis situation. I worked with the Warriors the year of the player choking the coach. So, crisis situation, yet again. And there's been others, the passing of a coach while a team was away. so I've dealt with crisis management and always try to keep everybody together. As it comes to teamwork, I've been a leader with a national organization of sports information professionals, running a board of 22 individuals with various backgrounds, small school, large school, but it's amazing how when you come together, you have the same objectives. What are we here for? Students. What are we here for here? Students, faculty, staff, of course. And it's exciting to be part of a team, whether it was leading that team or being a board member. So to see the different backgrounds, I've watched the videos, I see the passion with the videos this week on the museum presentation and what's going to be happening and what's currently being done. I love being part of a team. I work from home office by myself, and I miss that teamwork. So even if it's only 2 or 3 days a month, I'm really looking forward to that opportunity of being part of a team that does so much good.
Thank you. Senator Mayer.
First place, Mr. McDowell, thank you for your focus on women's sports. I grew up in a time when there was no women's sports, and I really appreciate your commitment to it. One sore point I have that if you were on the Board of Regents, I wonder what you would deal with. Currently, is not much of a requirement for recess, phys ed in the elementary grades. It's a very limited requirement. Many schools, including some in my district, are not compliant. Kids do not go to the gym and play or learn a sport. And the health curriculum, which we have put in money to upgrade, is really out of date, and they're in the process of updating it. Are you familiar with the rules about how much time must be spent in gym and recess in the current regents, and do you have ideas about changing that?
Well, I want to start with mental health education. To me, that is something that's imperative. We have a 13-year-old daughter, and we have our moments, but she knows Daddy loves her. I know how she feels, but it's such a challenge. I remember when I was 13, 14, so many things going on. And again, that device, I'd like to get away from that. But I think there needs to be some fresh fun time, no question, when it comes to recess. But I really hope that there is the consideration of mental health of students, because they do have a lot on their plate. There is peer pressure. She's heading to high school next year, and we know what that could be. What I'm telling her is that the sun's coming out. You're going to meet so many people, and you're going to have so many clubs. There's so much that lies ahead of you. As she watched Wicked, I brought that up and said, look at what lies ahead of you, how exciting it is. So recess is important because they need to clear their heads. And whether it's, unfortunately, this winter when they have to do so inside, I know that there are requirements, and I think that is important for them to have that. But as I said, mental health is something that I really like to see at all levels. And I saw it especially in college when student athletes would come to me in private because they trusted me. And I wasn't a professional, but they knew I cared about them.
I appreciate your passion, and I think we all share this commitment. I would just say there are districts, like schools in my district, where a big urban school district only has 2 football teams and 7 high schools because there is no funding for it. It's subsidized by the police union and the fire department union. I think that's unacceptable. I think every child should be in a school where there's an opportunity for clubs, as you described for your daughter. That is not the case. So what would you do on the Board of Regents to address what I'm describing as the reality in some districts?
Opportunities. There must be opportunities. We know in sports rosters have limited numbers, and we understand that. There's also club sports. There's coaches that can work with people in that respect. But they have to look at a percentage of how many students there that might have interest in playing certain sports. Football is an extremely difficult sport now in college because of the recruiting, and at the larger level, the NIL, where they're paying student athletes. So that's much different. But opportunity, going back to when I was in college and not seeing a softball team, why? There's not enough girls. Well, this is college. They're women's sports athletes. find the opportunities, and bring in young coaches, talented people that can coach multiple sports, somebody that can coach volleyball and softball. That's not a lot of funding, but that coach will take that opportunity and run with it and provide opportunities for sports that aren't currently there.
Thank you very much.
Assemblyman Burrows.
Good afternoon. Your involvement in sports is great, it's pivotal, and I'm saying this as a former professional athlete myself, so I think the lessons taught or lessons learned through sports, it prepares you for your future endeavors, and so, a lot of times I tell kids that I will have coached, just look at me as an example, and so some of the examples that you may transition from the classroom or from even from sports to the classroom that could help children be successful in other areas of their career. Could you just give us some examples of what that is and maybe what you have done in the past that has worked?
Well, I've worked at NCAA Division I, II, and III institutions. And Division III's feeling is that this is a fun sport, but you have a career elsewhere. D2 is similar. D1, at this time, there are a lot of people, a young woman looks at Caitlin Clark and thinks that she can play in the WNBA. And that's great, but you do have to develop other opportunities. And when I look at Facebook and see a note from a student from 20 years ago that says to me, "Hi, just wanted to let you know I just got this job in public relations," or an internship in music. I was at the NCA and met with Charlie Baker, the president, and I've met with the previous one, Mark Emmert. And when they started the program, you may remember the advertising campaign about professional other opportunities the NCA put together. We were in the room when that was going on. So sports can be looked at in different ways. If I may, I do want to, in the limited time, touch about the arts, because music is very important to my wife. She works for a national music company, and my daughter plays the flute. And we are running into issues we see at districts where music does not have the support, the creation, the arts, the creativity, drawings, paintings, that sort of thing. So people look at me and do think of sports, but to me the arts are essential, because my daughter cannot hit a ball, spike a ball, or swim. And so she has different friends that she meets from different opportunities, like the music and arts programs. And so those are very essential to me too, because of the creativity they have that goes along with sports, if that makes sense.
No, it does perfectly.
And congratulations on being a perfect example of what we talked about at the NCA, about what awaits.
Yep, thank you.
Assemblyman O'Farrell.
Good morning, Mr. McDowell. Thank you for appearing before us today. I, like Noah, played sports, but never on that level. I wasn't that good. But I thank you for your answer to his question. It's definitely apparent that there's a direct correlation between sports and self-confidence in team building in young people. It helped me out when I was younger and I had my own confidence issues. But I started a program in the Brentwood School District. It's unlike any other, boxing fitness within the school district. And I know you've been involved in quite a few sports. What is your take on boxing fitness in schools?
I think boxing is very good for fitness. I think touching on Mayor's comments about, or the safety comments, Benedetto, was that boxing is considered a dangerous sport. It can also have protective gear that could assist. It could be fun for some people. There are people that would like to do that. I never did work in boxing or ever at a professional event, but from an exercise standpoint, there are positivities to it. Again, but it comes down, of course, to the safety. And now with safety and sports bras, for example, thinking about things that are more comfortable for the student athletes when they compete, as well as safe. Those are things that have to continue to grow. And thanks to the companies who have developed listening to the student athletes at the pro level in particular, or at the NCAA level, when we've been there, I've been there 8 times over my career, when they would come in and say, this is what we need. So to answer the question, it's really having people who play that sport, people who have done it, and to say, this is what we need for the future. No sport should die. If the sport was founded, there's a good reason for it, and somebody will like it today.
Mr. O'Donnell, thank you very much for coming here today. Thank you for your interest in being on the Board of Regents and an institution we hold very highly here. You have spent an awful lot of time here today, coming here, waiting outside, and patiently answering our questions, and you answered very well. I thank you for your interest. I thank you for coming here today, and we will be talking with you, letting you know what our verdict is. If
Could
that's
I
the
make
right
a
word.
brief closing statement?
Sure, go right
Thank you.
ahead.
My whole career was seeing teamwork in action. Teams in athletics succeeded not just because of talent, but because of their leader, a coach, a mentor, and they all had the same drive. Different personalities, of course, but they are coming together for the common goal, respecting different thoughts, listening, providing input, and, a famous coach, doing your job. I saw it in sports, I saw it on my national board, and I would love the opportunity to be a part of it with this fabulous team of distinguished individuals who draw on their experience and their hearts and souls, as well as their minds, for the betterment of the education system. Thank you again for this opportunity, and best of luck in the process.
Thank you, sir. Have a good day. Safe traveling home.
Thank you.
I'm sorry? Benny Goldstein from Judicial District 10. Steve, don't leave us yet. What happened to Ms. Lopez? Oh, okay, bye-bye. Okay, so just hold on a second. I know Mr. Levine wanted to be here. Doing excellent today.
Hi. Can I approach you? No rush. Okay, I could wait. Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Goldstein.
Yes.
Welcome here.
Thank you.
And you have been before us before.
We met
Yes.
a few times. I was a town supervisor upstate New York
Yes.
in Canajoharie for many years. And I tried for the regent's position 2-3 years ago, and it was a Zoom call. And we were on Zoom call, and I remember you were very impressed. You said to me at the end.
Indeed, I was,
I'm
and
not
it
the
must have been
usual-
during COVID.
Yes, it was during
Yes,
COVID.
because we generally don't do
Yes.
Zoom calls.
And
Well,
we did.
listen, Mr. Goldstein, I'm Assemblyman Mike Benedetto, and I'm up here with other fellow elected officials and interviewing for the Board of Regents because we hold education in high regard here, and we hold the Board of Regents in just as high regard because they are the safeguard for our educational system here in the state of New York. So you're here before us. We will interview you. We'll give you about 3 minutes if you can, and stick to that. Tell us about yourself and what you think you could add to the Board of Regents. And then afterwards, we'll might ask you a few questions, okay, to further expand on it. In between, just relax.
Okay,
and
yes, thank you. I'm a little nervous.
begin the conversation. You shouldn't be. We don't want you to be. And the
Okay.
floor is yours, sir.
So, first of all, I want to thank you for allowing me to be here. I'm really appreciative of this opportunity. My name is Benny Goldstein. I was raised both in America and in Israel my whole life, so I experienced both educationals. As a child, my parents gave me a very rich childhood. I attended a lot of extra curriculum activities after school. I took karate classes. I took art classes, and I loved collecting things growing up. I had a stamp collection. I had marble collection. I collected everything. Over the years, I loved scribal arts. In Judaism, I became a certified scribe. It's, you know, in the doorway, you see these little boxes. So inside them, there's a scroll, and it takes around 2 hours to write them. And you write it with a feather and ink, and you dip it. And I spent 3 years when I was a child studying this. And I went in front of the head rabbi of Israel that certifies in this field. And he says to me, Benny, you're too young. You're only 13. How can I certify you? People that are 18, I don't even approve. And he says, you did excel in all the tests, and your handwriting's beautiful. You don't even have a beard. I remember coming up to him, and I said to him, Rabbi, look, I have 2-3 little hairs. And he looks, and all I had is peach fudge. I had nothing. He said, Benny, you really want this. I'll give it to you. But just know that you were the youngest certified scribe in Israel that I approved at the time. I was so happy and excited. A few years later, I got certified as the youngest rabbi in Israel from the 2 chief rabbis of Jerusalem. And I loved it. After that, I moved to Chicago. I learned in HTC, Theological College in Skokie. I spent 3 years in college, loved it, one of the best years of my life. After that, I got married, moved back to Israel, and I spent 5 years going to law school. I enjoyed law school so much, I got accepted to the bar, and I continued my education to become get a master's degree in law. And I specialized in international contract law and patents. I'm very creative myself, you'll see shortly. And over the years, I patent many of my own inventions. I'm extremely creative. And over the years, some startup companies I opened up were successful, and some not. That's how things go. Amongst the things that I invented a board game, educational board game. And it's a bestseller today in Israel. I sold over tens of thousands of copies, and and the educational system in Israel uses it to teach the kids how to count, 6 and 7 years old. It's such a success. Recently, I translated it into English. It's really fun. Over the years, I also wrote a dozen children books that specialize around imagination and kids using their creativity. So many books, I could spend hours talking about it. I wrote a book about marriage and relationship. I'm an inventor. It's because I do patents. I invented this device. It's a selfie stick. There's a reason why I'm showing you this. You put your camera here, and you can talk, and it records it. So my patent covers the microphone at the end of any selfie stick. So this gimmick, a company in Britain bought it from me, and it was a top toy selling in Britain for like 2 years. So I made a lot of money doing this. And then over the years, I invented this program called Animated Talmud. I noticed a lot of kids had difficulty learning the Jewish Talmudic studies. And I spent 5 years, I raised close to $500,000, and I made this program through hundreds of minutes of animations that teach children how to learn the complicated Talmud through cartoons. And today it's been given out for free throughout the world, and you have hundreds of thousands of kids a year learn my way of teaching. And it's so fulfilling because I see it, and it's something that I've been doing education for 30 years. Growing up, I've done Photoshop, graphic designs, 3D animation, you name it, 3D network design, A+, networking. I've done so much. I then moved to Canajoharie. I became a town supervisor for many years. I led the solar law in upstate New York because solar companies are coming so much here, and they're buying up farmland. So I was pioneering in the solar law with what's going on upstate. I raised 6 beautiful kids in the New York system, and I want you to know the educational system in New York is beautiful. You guys are doing such a beautiful job, and I know firsthand principals and educators, and they work so hard around the clock, and they give so much love to the kids today, and I feel it because I lived it with these students. And, a few years ago, I got this phone call from this guy. He introduced himself as Kenny. He was a janitor at the school where my kids learn. And he says, Benny, I want to tell you what happened this morning. I was fixing the water cooler, and one of your sons approaches me, and he says, Kenny, I want you to know you're appreciated. I'm thankful that you clean my classroom every day, and I love the fact that you are as important as the regular teachers and even the principal. You're not appreciated enough, and I want to thank you. And since that day, my kids help him sometimes turn over the chairs at the end of the day. And he calls to tell me, he says, Benny, whatever you did with your kids, you did a beautiful job raising them. I've been doing this for 20 years. I've been a janitor. Not once a kid approached me and appreciated what I do. So it made me feel good. And that's the way I raise by example. I do a great job. Just to finish up really quickly,
Please.
What I would like to add to the system, I believe in micro classes. It doesn't exist, but I feel there's a lack of broader educational for the younger kids. Today's kids do not absorb knowledge like we did years ago. They don't. It's different. They absorb knowledge through social media different. It's quick. And the kids are left behind. And I would like to add a broader understanding of lots of classes, a rich childhood that I had and I experienced. I want to give that to the kids, to the future kids, because I've lived through it. I hope I didn't talk too much. I'm very passionate, you can see.
Well, it's been our experience after listening yesterday to many of the regents that might be an attribute that is... Yes, thank you. Okay, listen, tell me, they're making graduation standards, revising them. It used to be the Regents diploma, okay? Now they're maybe branching out and looking at other ways for a child to eventually graduate from high school. Do you have any views on that?
Yes, I actually do. Weirdly enough, my son turned 16 in a day. The same boy that approached the janitor, and he says, "Dad, I don't know if you'll be proud of me or you'll kick me out of the house, but I got my GED." I said, "What?" I said, "I don't want to go to 11th and 12th grade." I said, "What do you mean?" He somehow figured out a way how to get his GED through one of the other states. I don't know how he pulled it off. He's a very smart kid. And he says, "I don't need to go now to 11th and 12th grade." And my wife and I were very upset. And he wanted to go to college early. He wanted really to attend college and continue his education quicker. Now, the GED, it's controversial, back and forth. Do you allow the GED for kids to take? Is it a means for them to leave school early? These are all big questions. And my opinion on these, I want to say like this. You're going to come and ask me all these big questions, these big controversial subjects on different political issues. My answer is, I'm a team player. At the end of the day, I will vote with the board. I will get the opinion of the people who appointed me in this position. I don't go rogue. I vote together, as I did as a town supervisor successfully with the board. I did it together. And I listen to people. I go to schools. I hear what's out there, and I will bring what I learned back to you, and we'll make that decision together. That's the best answer I could give you.
Thank you, sir. Senator?
Yeah.
Quick question. I do recall you from, we did it by Zoom.
Yes,
Several
thank
years
you.
ago. Have you had opportunity to either attend or watch a Board of Regents meeting?
No.
Are you familiar with sort of the way they operate, which is that they don't ask us, but they're independent of the legislature in many ways. They come up with their own decision. So if you were on the Board of Regents, are you willing to, do you have the time and the ability to go to schools, to talk to people, as you're saying, to gain the knowledge on specific?
Absolutely. It's my passion. This is what I love. You know, people scroll at TikTok at night, or you do a hobby. I love children. I can't explain it better than that. I love going to school. I enjoy listening to the principals. You know, I enjoy talking to people. Outside, there's a girl standing, Ashley Drake. What a pretty girl. I know her life story in 5 minutes, what she's done. You know, I listen to people and what they do, and that's all I can offer.
Do you mean the woman who's sitting at the desk?
Yes, she's a lovely person. She tries so hard. She was sharing with me, you know, in 2008. They had extra money in the school system she was teaching, and they used that for extra curriculum, for like art classes. I love that, and we spoke about that, how it's missing today in the school system. And I would bring that to the board and suggest that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Assemblyman Smith.
Thank you, sir. And I do remember when you came before us over Zoom, and I remember because I always call this Shark Tank, and you were the first one who had products. And I think I asked you if you had a utility patent or something. But you're talking about your own family situation. What are your thoughts on dual enrollment programs? Because I have to tell you, schools across the state of New York seem to be doing a very successful job. Where I represent Long Island. Well, you're also from Long Island as well. But on Eastern Long Island, several of the school districts were just the other day telling me how they have dual enrollment programs where a number of their students are able to get an associate's degree and a high school diploma at the same time, which I thought was pretty remarkable. What are your thoughts on?
I actually am very for it, and I love that, because we don't give the children today enough credit. They're smarter than they seem. And today's society tells them that they're lazy. And if you expect more from the children, they will give you more, and they'll appreciate it more. End of story. I'm for it 100%.
Now, I'll ask you a question just dovetailing off of your answer. Should there be a minimum number of Regents exams that a student should pass to merit a high school graduation, high school diploma?
I believe so. I believe they need to. But it comes back to what I believe is that I believe it's missing more broader classes, micro classes on the long run.
Yeah, can you explain what a micro class is?
It's something that I came up with of raising a lot of kids and teaching in classes. Like, because I do patents, I go visit schools and I teach about patents in classes. Kids are so smart, and within an hour, I could pass over so much information to a child. You wouldn't realize how much they're capable to absorb, like sponges. And we're missing that. That's one thing that's my personal thing.
It's almost like a professional development, but a
Like, for
very
example,
core-
Microsoft Excel spreadsheets, how to manage money. There's so many hundreds of little issues. Credit, how to manage credit. Health. I'm so big into health. I'm on this Brian Johnson way of living right now, if you're familiar with this. School system, the kids need to be aware of not eating sugar. It's so important. If you give the tools to the kid to make that decision, I promise you the kid will make a decision and go home. Mom, Dad, I don't want that yogurt. It has too much grams of sugar in there. And I've seen it firsthand. But if you believe in the kid, he'll come back and train the parents. And kids deserve much more.
Well, thank you for your
Okay,
thoughts.
I hope I answered your question
thank you.
in a way. Okay.
Assemblyman Levine.
Thank you, Chair. And Mr. Goldstein, thanks for being with us. We share a couple of things. Like you, I am from Nassau County, and also we have roots in Skokie, which is where my parents lived, and that's where you went to theological college.
Yes.
So it's good to see you, and thanks for being with us.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Regionalization drew a tremendous amount of, in my view, unneeded and unnecessary controversy in Nassau County. And you may or may not be aware, some of the school districts are actually suing the state of New York, needlessly, I will add as well, over that concept of regionalization. Can you share with us what was your view on the Regent's proposal, or rather the State Education Department's proposal, and what's your view on the controversy that surrounded it?
I'll be honest with you, I don't know much enough about the subject to comment, but at the end of the day, I would reach out to the people who appointed me and see what they would want to see at the end of the day. I'll be honest, when I don't know something, I don't know. As an attorney and someone that specializes in international contract, I am aware of these issues that come up, but I would go to the schools and understand firsthand why. Things could be solved just by meeting people in person and understanding, and that's what I do, that's what I was taught.
Very good. Thank you.
I can't answer you if I don't know.
Fair enough. Thanks,
I
Mike.
have my will, the will of trying to change. And I might not be perfect for this job. I might not have all the experiences so many other people do. But, okay, I
Well,
hope I'm helpful.
as they say, with a couple seconds left, where there's a will, there's a way. Thanks, Mr. Goldstein.
Thank you, Assemblyman. Assemblyman Burrow.
Good afternoon. Just a quick question. Are you familiar with the oversaturated market that's developing in Nassau County of charter schools? And are you aware of the competition that's created because of charter schools? So
I'm actually am
what would be
aware.
your solution to?
It's funny that you're mentioning that. I met the charter school in Hempstead, and they have 2-3 other charter schools in the area, and they're raising money, and they're trying to buy a development that actually someone that I know I'm working with. I do real estate, by the way, on the side. That's where I make my money, so I do have time to devote for this. But that's a really good question. There's international politics I don't want to get into, putting the power in the state, in the hand with the states. I'm aware of that. It's a new development where they just closed educational, the national. And the question is, do we want to give the charter school more power or not? I don't know where we stand. Again, I use the word we. I don't make decisions on my own. I do it as a team together with the other board members. I'm for charter schools. I think it's a wonderful thing to have individual people teaching. And I believe when it comes to education, we can find a common ground down the line, which means to say is that if they teach certain core subjects, what is the charter school? The peripheral, the extra little things surrounding the core is what's important. No one's arguing the core. Think about it. Even in the charter school, they all agree that you have to pass certain region tests, you have to do certain stuff. But they're talking about what's around it, the fluff. And I'm okay for creativity, and each school should have their own. Am I wrong with what I'm saying? That's my opinion.
You are entitled to your own
Okay,
opinions,
but-
and we value those opinions.
Okay, and from my personal experience, I've taught in classes, I've been involved, I see it firsthand. Give the individual schools creativity and see how they over-exceed other schools and compare other schools. Make it a competition and see other schools excel, and see. That's the best what I can say. I'm not against it. Am I for it? I yet to see still, but I'm open to try.
Mr. Goldstein.
Yes.
We want to thank you very much. You have much enthusiasm.
Thank you.
Okay, and that's a wonderful quality. Please keep it. Thank you very much for applying for this important position. Thank you for coming here today and answering our questions.
Okay.
And safe travel back
I
home.
appreciate it. And if not this year, I'm coming back next year, okay?
We'll be here, sir.
I won't give up. Thank you
Good
for
for
taking
you.
the time.
And you know, you can't sell those to the system if
Oh, no, of
if you
course
get
not.
elected. It'll be a
Oh, no, no,
conflict
no,
of
no.
interest.
I know,
I'm
I know.
sure. I'm just.
Yeah.
Mr. Goldstein, thank you.
Okay.
I want to look like I'm being interviewed every time I take a video.
Stephen, do we have one more candidate outside? Oh, Miss Lopez has arrived. Wonderful. I'm sorry? Yes, I believe so. This is for the Albany region. There you go. Right.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks again. I can.
Doug, thanks a lot. Take care. Enjoy the break. Her interview was supposed to be at 12.
Goodbye. Oh, nice. Oh, you going home? Is it snowing?
I don't know, hopefully not. Let's see. Oh, you headed home? Yeah, I gotta rush back. Actually, I think it stopped snowing in I think so. I think tonight was, I don't know. There's a lot of snow in it. That's crazy political stuff.
Oh, well, we're not responsible.
So, Mike, when you finish everyone, how do you tell you what do you do?
That's a good question.
Good day, everyone.
Ms. Lopez, we welcome you here. I am Assemblyman Mike Benedetto. I welcome to you coming before the panel and your interest in being a state regent. I'm chairman of the Education Committee in the State Assembly, and I'm sitting with other elected officials, all of which have an interest in the education and well-being of the students of New York. And we're interested in hearing about you and what your vision might be if you do go to the Board of Regents. So we want you to settle in and relax and take a few minutes, and we kind of mean what we say, a few minutes. And after which, we'll ask you a couple questions just to get to know you a little more. Okay? So the floor is yours, ma'am.
Okay, I just wanted to get my computer up and running. I have prepared a little short, brief little statement for you. One thing, I tend to be soft-spoken, so...
Yes, well, speak close to the microphone. Okay, is your microphone still on? There should be a
Hello?
green light at the base. Good.
So I always tell people ahead of time, if you can't hear me, just let me know.
You're doing well. Go ahead.
We're good. So first, I'm deeply honored for being here with you today. It's my pleasure to share with you why do I want to become a regent? My interest in being a regent, passion for education, and my commitment to a brighter future. Is this better for you? Okay. And I'm also grateful to be speaking with you on the ancestral lands of the Haudenosaunee, the Mohicans, and the Sagadaco. I hope I pronounced that right, because pronouncing people's names are so important to me. So, anyways, from an early age, I was inspired by these powerful words. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all people are created equal. These words, together with my mother's teaching that a person's true value lies in the character of the person, not in the background or the appearance of the person, it framed the driving force of my life. Forgive me, I'm getting over the flu.
Take your time.
So I'm a little dry once in a while, and my voice will go in and out. And it formed the driving force of my life to ensure that everyone has equal access to opportunities. They also have the resources to succeed and also the confidence to belong wherever they are. My mom came to the United States with this dream to have her children, like me, become whoever I wanted to be, have a better life, and to get an excellent education. That dream fueled my passion as seeing education as an equalizer and a pathway to opportunities. My journey has been shaped by perseverance and a desire to help others. In college, after taking a constitutional law course, I decided to become a lawyer. That was a challenging decision because of my family background. My parents grew up in a village where the homes had dirt floors and no electricity. Some didn't even have windows. And my father wanted me to follow a more traditional path. I didn't want that. I believed that I wanted to make systemic change and to help create a more just and equitable society, an inclusive society for other people. And I thought I could do that by becoming an attorney. I was fortunate to receive the support of the Cornell law professor who taught that constitutional law course that changed my life, and who believed in me. He reinforced in me the commitment to lift other people, help people move forward, ensure that all students, regardless of their circumstances, have the chance to pursue their dreams. Education has the power to transform lives, not just for the individuals, but their future generations, their family. Most likely, I probably have personally experienced some of the challenges many of our diverse students have faced, from being told that my academic potential will be limited because I come from an inner city school. Well, I excelled in my school and the calculus course that he told me I couldn't do well in. As a regent, I would bring my lived experience as well as my expertise as an attorney, an educator, a system-wide affirmative action officer, and a Fulbright scholar to advocate for policies that foster equity, excellence, and opportunity for all. Together, we can strengthen our educational system by addressing disparities among the school regions, enhancing curriculum, and ensuring that our students have access to the resources they need to survive. We must continue to invest in our educators, expand digital access, and implementing evidence-based strategies to improve student success in rural, suburban, and urban communities. At this time, the role of education is more critical than ever. We have an opportunity to protect and advance initiatives that support our students, their rights, support our teachers, support the resources for libraries and museums, and create an inclusive learning environment for everyone, whether they're DACA recipients, LGBTQIA2+, or individuals with disability, or, veterans or students who have diverse race, ethnic, and religious background. I'm eager to serve the students and the people of New York, work with dedicated educators and families and community leaders to drive meaningful progress. By working together, we can empower the next generation to achieve their goals, enhance their social mobility, and unlock their potentials, and, build together their opportunity and their success. So thank you. I hope that gives you a little bit about me and why this is important.
Ms. Lopez, we thank you very much for that opening statement. Appreciate it. Let me ask you a question. For years and years, a New York diploma has always been regarded as, the Regents diploma. And they seem to be looking at, and I say they, the State Education Department, the State Board of Regents, in maybe modifying that and going towards other ways of having standards for a diploma. Could you possibly speak on that and tell me your views about what they're looking towards?
As a matter of fact, I tutor, I'm a volunteer virtual tutor of a student down in New York City. And we were actually talking about that because I was trying to find out about how do you feel about this? And what my tutee told me is that, I don't want to use gender, but my tutee informed me that, well, you will, he's taking the Regents courses. Part of me, considering that some of us don't do very well in multiple choice exams, and it doesn't really tell you the true value of what our potential is, says, well, I believe we could modify that. But then the other part of me says, you know, we do need standards. We need to have something to measure people to ensure that they have succeeded and how we can help them to succeed with whatever standards we created, because that is really the crucial element of this. So, in essence, I look at it both ways. I see the requirements of the Regents, the diplomas, the test takings, those accreditations are very important. But I also see, on the other hand, that there are other opportunities that we can do. I know that some colleges have already been eliminating the SATs for people to show that they are qualified to go to school, to college. So I still need to listen more, hear more, because I see both sides of what is important. But I think the bottom line is we need to be looking at what is in the best interest of our students and the people of New York, and how we can prepare them, and how we can ensure their success now, while they're in school, and beyond when they go to the workforce, or to wherever they're going. That's what I really believe is important.
Thank you. Assemblywoman Hyndman.
Good afternoon, and thank you. Of the committees that are part of the Board of Regents, and in the breadth of your experience, which committee do you think would be best suited to what you, your
My unique
lengthy
skills.
CV resume?
You know, I went and I looked at those committees, and I was thinking, oh gosh, there's so many that I would be interested. I liked your cultural committee and what you were doing about that. I decided I don't think I'd want to be on the budget committee, because although I've created budgets for my office and departments, I thought, I think I'd rather have someone who is more expertise on something like that. I also, I love writing policies and procedures, but it was the cultural committee that really appealed to me. That being said, I would ask that wherever I could serve best, I'm really flexible. Wherever I could serve best is where I would wish to be put on. If someone thinks I'm better on the budget committee, I will study my budget, just like for my student. He's in geometry, so on Sunday afternoons, I am studying geometry. So I would just ask whatever is best.
Thank
Preference
you.
for the cultural.
Thank you.
Senator Mayer.
Thank you for being here, Ms. Lopez. I see that you collaborated in writing the SUNY DEI policy, and I assume you're familiar with the executive order that President Trump recently issued on the issues of DEI. And I wondered, were you to be on the Regents, how would you help New York retain its commitment to the issues of culturally responsive and sustaining education, which is the language of the Regents on these issues? How would you do that in the face of the executive order?
Can you repeat the last part of that, please? Something.
How would you help New York retain its commitment to these principles that you've been involved with when you have the threat of action against teachers and schools that engage in promoting the concepts of diversity.
That is something that I've really been giving it a lot of serious consideration since I started, since from the beginning of the year, I've been reading about all of this. We've been kind of sort of down this road before, and what we have been doing is we support our people with my affirmative action officers. What I did with them, one, we provided them with safe spaces where they can talk about how they are feeling. Two, we also ensured that we gave them educational support, language on how to communicate when something occurred like this. What we should be evaluating is that the funding sources could be cut if the Department of Education is it's being threatened at this moment. And with that, a lot of teachers might be concerned about losing their jobs, just as we've seen the federal government lose their jobs. So we need to be looking at our funding sources wherever we have grants. The grants are also being evaluated at this moment. Matter of fact, one of my colleagues in a college, she spent the day yesterday evaluating her grants to make sure that they fall in line with what the executive order is and the language. In New York, we are fortunate that we are in an environment in which we have some laws and we have people in place who truly believe in, we call it justice, equity, diversity, inclusion, JEDIB. So please forgive me if I slip into JEDIB. So in New York, we have people who support JEDIB, and we should be supporting them, help our people. Sometimes what I also did at SUNY is when the Fisher case came down, I wrote a portion of the brief that we submitted to the state, and I was so happy and elated when I saw some of my words in our brief go to the Supreme Court. So we need to be taking affirmative positions, evaluating some of our funding sources, evaluating how we can help our teachers, because if Title IX is removed, we could be losing teachers through layoffs. Salaries will be affected, and a lot of programs will be affected. So I could just hope that we will support our people in whatever way we can, evaluate our policies and procedures to ensure that they are strong, and give people safe spaces in which they can talk and communicate with each other. It's a lot, it's a complicated issue. It's not just, this DID, it's JEDIB, we're there, we support you, but there's more to it than that. It's how do they go and teach their students? What do we do with their curriculum that we need to be looking at? How do we help them communicate with the students? How do we help them navigate the system? We need to be looking at all of this. As I told my friend the other day, I said, you should be evaluating your policies and procedures. Look at your funding sources. Look at your grants. Look for your data. What is your data telling you about the people and the success in the curriculum? Evaluate your curriculum. These are all things we should be looking at.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you very much. One last question to close. The governor has put out her budget, and part of her budget, she's making a statement that she wants school districts to formulate a cell phone policy. Actually, she seems to be implying that she wants to make a blanket ban on cell phones throughout the state in our schools. Do you have any opinions on that? Should it be a blanket plan, or maybe should the individual districts make up their own plan? I'll be interested in hearing your views on that.
That too is something that I've looked at for many years, because I have nieces and nephews who are in school system, but also in light of all the the shootings. I'm concerned about a blanket ban because children need to be able to communicate with their parents, and parents need to be able to communicate with their children to know in situations similar to that what's going on. I know that if I had a child in school, I would be really concerned. I also believe in pushing power down to the people who actually know what their environment is like, know what is important to ensure the protection of their people, because as leaders, what we need to do as leaders, our first priority is the protection and the safety of our people. That's it. And then after that, after you've evaluated your data, after you evaluated the strategies that you've created to address something, then you can look at your policies, look at your strategies, and determine what is the best interest of your people. If the governor wants an absolute ban, I know people tell you not to give you exactly how you feel, but I would be troubled by that because I would be concerned about the safety of the people.
And thank you for that, for your honesty. I appreciate. And I thank you also for being here today, for taking the time to show your interest in applying for to be a member of the Board of Regents and coming out here today. I'm sure everyone here is quite impressed with you and your statements, and we thank you for them. And we will be notifying you within probably a couple of weeks about which way we go on this.
Great.
So we thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming, and you have a safe trip back.
Well, would you like a copy of my speech, my little presentation?
We will certainly take that. Thank you very much. It is recorded, but we will take a written statement. We appreciate that. And as we do take that, we'll officially end our interviews for regents of the New York State Board of Regents and in the year 2025. So we are at an end, and thank you all for assisting.
Thank you, everyone, for
Done.
being here and listening to me.